Chapter 4095. Kakik. He's just an early ancient star transformation realm ant, yet you still want to use me? Aren't you using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken? On the surface of the evil ghost demonic wheel, a pair of strange red eyes stared coldly at Zhuowen from the depths of the black aura. Especially when he found that Zhuowen's aura was not very strong, his eyes were filled with a strange light. Saika Hongfei's face was gloomy as he said coldly, "Don't underestimate this kid. His strength is far beyond the ordinary ancient star transformation realm experts. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been unable to take him down. Of course, if I wasn't injured no matter how strong this kid is, he would have been a corpse by now." The evil ghost demonic will no longer spoke. The moment he was summoned by Saika Hongfei, he felt that Saika Hongfei's aura was extremely weak, and he was severely injured. "I'll lend you my power. Remember your promise, I need 8 million lives." The evil ghost demonic will said coldly. "What? Didn't you say it was 5 million? Saika Hongfei was furious. "That was then. This is now. If you don't want to, I won't force you. However, you don't want to use my power either." The evil ghost demonic will laughed sinisterly. Saika Hongfei was so angry that his whole body trembled. He gritted his teeth and said, "Fine. I agree." That's more like it." The evil ghost demonic will laughed disdainfully and no longer made any sound. However, the evil energy that surged out of his body became even stronger and more terrifying. "Little bastard, I'll kill you today." Saika Hongfei looked at Zhuowen with bloodshot eyes. He vented all the anger in his chest on Jun. If it weren't for this kid, he wouldn't have been tricked so miserably by the evil ghost demonic wheel. Saika Hongfei's right foot stepped on the void and shot out like an arrow towards Jun. The evil ghost demonic wheel continued to revolve around his body. Terrifying black fog surged and condensed around Saika Hongfei's body, forming an extremely hard armor. Zhuowen's gaze was serious. He did not dare to be careless. He held the purple gold divine sword in his right hand and slashed out with all his might. Streaks of sword light whizzed out, forming a boundless sea of swords in the sky. At the same time, all 10 of Zhuowen's fingers moved as he unleashed his lifetime's worth of knowledge. Lines after lines of terrifyingly complex runes surged out and shot up into the sky. The ocean of swords combined with the complex formation patterns to form a terrifying formation with the sword light as the foundation. In an instant, its power reached its peak. Sword shaking the 9 heavens. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. This was a technique that he had created himself. It was an extremely powerful technique that combined the array way and the way of the sword. The power of the sword shaking the 9 heavens was naturally much stronger than the one line of primordial heaven and earth. However, what made Zhuowen's expression turn ugly was that Saika Hongfei's speed did not decrease at all despite being enveloped by the black fog. Like a wild beast, he directly charged into the sword shaking the 9 heavens. What made Zhuowen even more incredulous was that Saika Hongfei was able to move freely through the ocean of swords. The endless sword light combined with the formation pattern's power was like endless lightning that struck Saika Hongfei's body. However, it did not cause any harm to him. This terrifying power was basically blocked by the strange black fog around Saika Hongfei's body. Damn it! This evil ghost demonic wheel is actually so terrifying. Zhuowen's expression turned ugly. Even though there was only a single rank difference between a rank 6 astral weapon and a rank 7 astral weapon, the difference in power was like heaven and earth. As Saika Hongfei continued to approach him, he could clearly feel that the purple gold divine sword in his right hand was trembling violently. It was as if it was afraid of the evil ghost demonic wheel approaching. Zhuowen knew that if the purple gold divine sword clashed with the evil ghost demonic wheel, the purple gold divine sword would very likely be destroyed in the end. "Do I have to use that thing again?" Zhuowen frowned slightly. He knew that the only thing that could resist the evil ghost demonic wheel was the Grand Emperor's seal. However, the Grand Emperor's seal was simply too domineering. Every time he used it, it would suck his energy dry. If he could not defeat the enemy in one move, Zhuowen would not be willing to use the Grand Emperor's seal. Boom! Just as Zhuowen was thinking of a countermeasure, the ocean of swords completely collapsed. Psycho Hongfei's cold aura fell towards Zhuan. Little bastard, you're dead meat. Psycho Hongfei's cold voice reverberated in the sky. It was as if the heavens were descending. Zhuowen's eyes flashed with decisiveness. He knew that now was not the time to hesitate. At this point, the only way for him to escape this calamity was to use the Grand Emperor's seal. Just as Zhuan was about to put away the purple gold divine sword and take out the Grand Emperor's seal, his expression changed drastically and his body shook. This is my calamity? Zhuan suddenly raised his head and looked into the depths of the chaotic void. There, he discovered that a terrifying calamity was constantly brewing and flashing, as if it would descend at any moment. A strong wind whistled as if it was right in front of him. He saw that Psycho Hongfei was not far away from him. Zhuowen's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. He executed the primordial chaos body technique to the extreme and turned into an illusory purple shadow. He dodged Psycho Hongfei's attacks while patiently waiting for the calamity to descend. Psycho Hongfei naturally sensed Zhuowen's intentions. In fact, when the calamity had started brewing, he had already noticed the calamity energy in the depths of the void. However, he did not take it to heart. How foolish. Do you think a mere calamity of the ancient star transformation can be your trump card? A calamity of this level is like scratching an itch to me. It's not worth mentioning. Psycho Hongfei sneered disdainfully. He did not take Zhuowen's calamity seriously at all. Instead, his attacks became fiercer and fiercer. He wanted to kill Zhuowen as soon as possible. Although Zhuowen tried his best to dodge and use various array formations to obstruct Psycho Hongfei, he was still hit several times by Psycho Hongfei's attacks. More and more injuries appeared on his body. Rumble. Suddenly, the calamities in the depths of the chaotic void finally reached a mature stage. With a thunderous explosion, an extremely fierce and terrifying white lightning fell from the depths of the void. It rapidly struck towards Psycho Hongfei and Zhuan. This calamity seems to be quite powerful. Psycho Hongfei frowned slightly. He could acutely sense that Zhuowen's calamity seemed to be much more powerful than the calamities of other ancient star transformation cultivators. However, he did not care too much. No matter how powerful this calamity was, it was still a calamity of the ancient star transformation cultivators. Psycho Hongfei waved his hand and a gust of black gas shot out from his palm and blasted towards the white lightning. The black gas and the white lightning tangled for a long time before the white lightning was finally annihilated. Chapter 4096. Boom, boom, boom. Just as Psycho Hongfei was about to continue attacking Zhuowen, a bolt of white lightning descended from the depths of the void, followed by the sound of thunder. Then, under the shocked gazes of Zhuowen and Psycho Hongfei, numerous bolts of white lightning fell from the void. There were simply too many white lightning bolts, and they were too dense. They streaked across the sky and lined up one after another, forming a rectangular hell of white lightning. What? Why are there so many of them? Psycho Hongfei's expression changed drastically. He no longer cared about chasing after Zhuowen. Instead, he used his movement technique to the best of his ability and retreated rapidly. Just now, that bolt of white lightning had already been difficult for him to deal with. Now that so many bolts of white lightning were descending, no matter how confident he was, he knew that he would not be able to withstand them. Therefore, Psycho Hongfei decided to temporarily retreat from the range of the calamity so that he would not be at a disadvantage. He would wait for Zhuowen to pass the calamity, then he would take advantage of the opportunity to kill Zhuowen in one fell swoop. However, just as Psycho Hongfei was about to leave the range of the calamity, extremely terrifying runes suddenly surged around him. These runes rushed over like a flood, instantly pushing Psycho Hongfei back into the dense hell of white lightning. Old dog Psycho, do you think you can just leave after beating me up? Why don't you stay and accompany me? Zhuowen's sinister voice rang out. Then, Psycho Hongfei's expression turned ugly as he discovered that Zhuowen had appeared at the edge of the white lightning and launched an extremely fierce attack at him without any regard for his own safety. You're courting death. Psycho Hongfei was furious. He no longer held back and activated the power of the evil ghost demonic wheel with all his might, blasting it at Zhuowen. The evil ghost demonic wheel was indeed worthy of being a rank 7 astral weapon fragment. Its power was indeed extremely terrifying. Everywhere it passed, the void was about to be destroyed. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. He naturally felt the terrifying power of the evil ghost demonic wheel. With his strength, if he faced the evil ghost demonic wheel head-on, he would basically be courting death. Seeing that the white lightning kun was about to descend, Zhuowen also knew that this was a rare opportunity. He absolutely could not let Psycho Hongfei escape from the scene of the great calamity. With a vicious look in his eyes, he took out the Tai Sovereign Seal and channeled his divine power into it. On the surface of the Tai Sovereign Seal, an intense yellow light surged, and the Tai Sovereign Seal rapidly expanded. In the end, the Grand Emperor's seal turned into a small hill that was about 10 feet in size and stood in front of Zhuowen. Zhuowen's face immediately turned incomparably pale. This Tai Imperial Seal was too ruthless. It was still crazily absorbing his divine power. Thankfully, Zhuowen's cultivation base had already reached the ancient star transformation stage, and his god force was far more robust than before. As such, he was able to just barely hold on. The evil ghost demonic wheel swept through the void and spun at high speed. The countless ferocious evil ghost statues on its surface seemed to have come to life, turning into ghost fog and revealing ferocious and terrifying heads. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out as the evil spirit demonic wheel finally crashed into the Grand Emperor's seal. The Grand Emperor's seal swayed slightly, then became as still as a mountain. A rich golden light flowed on its surface, flashing incessantly. It was a dazzling sight. From within the evil ghost demonic wheel, a blood-curdling scream rang out. It sounded like the scream of an old man who had been heavily slashed by a knife. It was extremely unpleasant to the ears. The evil ghost demonic wheel flew out and landed beside Psycho Hongfei, screaming incessantly. Psycho Hongfei's eyes narrowed as he stared at the Grand Emperor's seal in front of Zhuowen in disbelief. What the hell was this? Not only did the evil ghost demonic wheel fail to destroy the Grand Emperor's seal, but it was also severely damaged. This. Psycho Hongfei was completely dumbfounded. He even forgot that he was trying to avoid Zhuowen's calamity. By the time he regained his senses, it was already too late. Rolling white lightning fell densely, completely enveloping him and the surrounding hundreds of millions of miles. Psycho Hongfei roared, his face filled with shock and anger. He immediately waved the evil ghost demonic wheel to defend against the dense white lightning. Psycho Hongfei, what are you doing? Can't you see that I'm severely injured? You still want to borrow my power? The weapon spirit of the evil ghost demonic wheel was flustered and exasperated. He kept cursing Psycho Hongfei, clearly indicating that he did not want to help anymore. Psycho Hongfei's face darkened. The weapon spirit of the evil ghost demonic wheel was too much of a bastard. His words were too vulgar. Every curse was a personal attack. However, Psycho Hongfei could only swallow his anger. After all, he still needed to borrow the power of the evil ghost demonic wheel. Furthermore, when he saw the dense and endless amount of terrifying white lightning around him, he felt goosebumps all over his body. If he was at his peak, he could definitely withstand these white lightning bolts. However, his current state was too weak. If he faced this calamity head-on, he would be severely injured even if he did not die. Damn it, what kind of freak is this guy? Why would a mere ancient star transformation cause such a freakish calamity? Psycho Hongfei could not help but curse. He was extremely depressed. Zhuowen, who was hiding in the Tai Emperor's seal, naturally also felt the terror of the white lightning hell. His face instantly turned extremely pale. Fortunately, the Tai Emperor's seal was indeed powerful. It protected Zhuowen and blocked the countless white lightning bolts that were attacking him, preventing them from getting close to him. In the endless white lightning hell, Zhuowen's spiritual consciousness also sensed that Psycho Hongfei was also struggling to withstand the white lightning bolts not far away. From Psycho Hongfei's state, it was obvious that this guy was not in a good state. After all, he was enduring part of the calamity for Zhuowen. Moreover, Psycho Hongfei's aura was far stronger than Zhuowen's. Therefore, the place where the white lightning was densest was where Psycho Hongfei was. I must get rid of him as soon as possible. Cold, killing intent burst out from Zhuowen's eyes. He knew that now was the best time to get rid of Psycho Hongfei. If he waited until the calamity was over, he would lose the advantage of time. At that time, it would be very difficult to get rid of Psycho Hongfei. Kill! Zhuowen no longer dodged the white lightning bolts. Instead, he rushed out and faced the endless white lightning bolts as he charged towards Psycho Hongfei. This was his calamity. Although this calamity was terrifying and powerful enough to destroy anything, Psycho Hongfei was still able to withstand it. However, if Zhuowen could make it through, his aura would only grow stronger with the assistance of the calamity. Naturally, the benefits he could obtain would also increase. On the other hand, Psycho Hongfei could only passively take the hits. The longer he stayed here, the more dangerous his situation would become. Is this guy crazy? Psycho Hongfei naturally saw Zhuowen charging toward him. He was so scared that his soul almost left his body. He cursed Zhuowen loudly. However, no matter how much he cursed, he could only passively assume a defensive posture. Boom! Zhuowen quickly moved with great difficulty to Psycho Hongfei. His body was bathed in white lightning and was charred black. A strong smell of burnt flesh wafted out from him. However, his eyes were filled with madness. He raised the Tai Emperor's seal and smashed it towards Psycho Hongfei. Psycho Hongfei's face darkened. He was surrounded by most of the white lightning and had nowhere to retreat. He knew that he could only fight. He used all his strength to summon the evil ghost demonic wheel and tried to block Zhuowen's attack. However, just as he summoned the evil ghost demonic wheel, he was shocked to find that it had slipped out of his hand and flew in the opposite direction, avoiding the Tai Emperor's seal. I won't fight this damn thing head-on. Psycho Hongfei, if you want to fight head-on, don't drag me into it. The artifact spirit's terrified voice came from the evil ghost demonic wheel. Chapter 4097. Boom. The Tai Emperor's seal fell heavily on Psycho Hongfei's body like a mountain. The two of them were too close. Psycho Hongfei knew that it was impossible for him to dodge, so he roared and gathered all the divine power in his body to resist the Tai Emperor's seal. In the end, the Tai Emperor's seal collided with Psycho Hongfei, and a terrible sound of collision rang out. Psycho Hongfei's full strength didn't last long before it was crushed by the Tai Emperor's seal. Psycho Hongfei screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. He was sent flying in a sorry state. Boom, boom, boom. The moment Psycho Hongfei was pushed back, countless bolts of white lightning landed on his body, and he screamed in pain. Psycho Hongfei tried his best to resist the white lightning, but unfortunately his injuries were too severe, and the divine power he could use was pitifully thin. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was continuously pushed back by the white lightning. His body was already charred black. However, his eyes grew even brighter and sharper. Moreover, an extremely dense vitality surged within the depths of his extremely charred body like a withered tree that had just come back to life. Zhuowen believed that as long as he could survive this, his cultivation would immediately soar to the peak of the early-stage ancient star transformation. He wouldn't be too far away from the mid-stage ancient star transformation. Psycho Hongfei, today only one of us will live. I will kill you even if I have to risk my life. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. He used the Tai Emperor's seal to block most of the white lightning, and used his physical body to resist the rest. He slowly walked towards Psycho Hongfei. Madman, you're a madman. When Psycho Hongfei saw this scene, he was truly frightened. That was why he had cried out in a shrill voice. At this moment, he finally felt a deep sense of fear. In his eyes, Wen was a madman who didn't care about his own life. In this terrifying calamity, the two of them were in a very difficult situation. They could only barely protect themselves. However, in order to kill him, Zhuowen didn't care about the consequences at all. He was willing to pay any price. Zhuowen grinned, and his smile was filled with coldness. Evil Ghost Devil Wheel, why don't you come and help me? If I die, who will provide you with sacrifices in the future? Psycho Hongfei hurriedly shouted at the evil ghost demonic wheel not far away. However, to Psycho Hongfei's despair, the evil spirit demonic wheel ignored him. Instead, it said calmly, Psycho Hongfei, I only like the strong. The more powerful they are, the more sacrifices they can provide me. Back then, you were indeed strong enough, so I was willing to accept your worship. But now you can't. As the saying goes, the winner takes all. You are no longer qualified for me to lend you my strength. You are just a lowly weakling. Psycho Hongfei's face paled as he shouted angrily, "Evil ghost demonic wheel, you have helped me. If I die, do you think he will let you go?" However, the evil ghost devil wheel mocked, "Psycho Hongfei, you think too highly of yourself. Have you forgotten that I am a level 7 astral weapon fragment? Who would refuse the power of a level 7 astral weapon fragment? Evil ghost devil wheel, you ingrate. I have provided you with so many lives over the years, and I have agreed to almost all of your conditions. Now, I only want to borrow your strength to make you fight for your life, but you refuse to do so. Absolute, isn't it too disappointing?" Psycho Hongfei shouted angrily. The evil ghost devil will had gone too far. It only knew how to take and never gave. Then you can only blame yourself for being stupid. You are a weakling. The evil ghost devil wheel replied coldly. It continued to watch the show not far away, and it had no intention of helping Psycho Hongfei. Zhuowen, who had been guarding against the evil ghost devil wheel, was completely relieved. He knew that the evil ghost devil wheel would not really help Psycho Hongfei. "Psycho Hongfei, it is time for you to die. Accept this reality." Zhuowen finally arrived in front of Psycho Hongfei with difficulty. He raised the Tai Emperor's seal with difficulty and smashed it at the ladder again. Boom! Psycho Hongfei was hit squarely once again, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The dense cracks on his body were rapidly spreading, and he was like a piece of glass that could shatter at any time. Psycho Hongfei kept retreating, and countless white thunderbolts were like maggots that burrowed into his body, wantonly destroying his insides. Psycho Hongfei screamed in agony. His body was finally on the verge of collapse, and with a loud boom, it shattered into countless pieces. Zhuowen was also hit by countless white thunderbolts, and he spat out blood as he retreated. His body also showed signs of collapsing. However, the aura in the depths of his body was growing stronger and stronger. "I will definitely survive this tribulation," Zhuowen roared, put away the Tai Emperor's seal, and rushed into the void to face the countless white thunderbolts. The Tai Emperor's seal consumed too much divine power, so Zhuowen would rather not use it. He planned to use his own strength to resist this tribulation that belonged to him. The white thunderbolts persisted for a long time, and although Zhuowen's injuries were getting worse, his aura was getting stronger and stronger. Finally, when the white thunderbolts completely disappeared, Zhuowen's aura skyrocketed, and a thunderous sound burst out from his body. At this moment, he had advanced again, and reached the middle stage of the ancient star transformation. All of this was due to the extremely pure energy contained in the tribulation. Otherwise, Zhuowen would not have been able to advance so quickly. In the depths of the chaotic void, the rolling tribulation gradually dissipated, and peace was restored. Zhuowen slowly descended from the depths of the void. The charred skin on the surface of his skin, which looked like a cicada's cocoon, gradually cracked and scattered, revealing a translucent jade-like skin. Zhuowen slowly clenched his fist, and a series of explosive sounds rang out, and the air vibrated with extremely terrifying waves and ripples. Just by clenching his fist, there was already such a powerful movement. It was obvious that Zhuowen's body had undergone an earth-shattering transformation. So the powerful white thunderbolts have such a powerful tempering effect on the body. Zhuowen was pleasantly surprised. He realized that although each tribulation was extremely terrifying, his body would basically undergo a terrifying transformation once he passed the tribulation. This was like a sword that had been tempered thousands of times. The more tempered it was, the sharper it would be. His corporeal body was the sword, and every calamity was the hammer that forged it. Of course, this tempering effect was only effective on him. If an outsider accidentally entered his tribulation, they would not be tempered, but rather die. Chapter 4098. This evil ghost devil wheel was indeed worthy of being a rank 7-star weapon fragment. Although it was in a sorry state, it did not suffer much damage overall. Zhuowen looked coldly at the evil ghost devil wheel in front of him. Speaking of which, he did not like the spirit of this evil ghost devil wheel. Although he was able to kill Psycho Hongfei smoothly, it was also indirectly because of this evil ghost devil wheel. But just as Psycho Hongfei had said, the spirit of this evil ghost devil wheel was an ingrate. Psycho Hongfei had supported him for so many years, but at the critical moment, he stabbed his own master in the back. Suddenly, not far away, a faint ball of light rushed up and flew into the distance. Psycho Hongfei, you can't escape. The evil ghost devil wheel suddenly laughed sinisterly, and then the rolling black fog rushed out, revealing a huge black handprint, and blasted towards the ball of light. Evil ghost devil wheel, you are despicable and shameless, you will die a horrible death. The ball of light was suppressed by the black handprint, and Psycho Hongfei's resentful voice came from it. The spirit of the evil ghost devil wheel did not feel guilty at all. With a wave of the black handprint, the ball of light was held in front of him. Psycho Hongfei, you know the principle of cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots much better than I do. I will always believe that the dead are more reliable than the living. The evil ghost devil wheel chuckled, then grabbed the ball of light, looked at Zhuowen proudly and continued, Boy, let's get to know each other. My name is Evil Emperor, you can call me Lord Evil Emperor. Inside this ball of light should be Psycho Hongfei's soul and his universe world. If you want it, promise to sacrifice 10 million creatures for me. Also, if you want to cooperate with me and need to borrow my power, then give it to me. Give it to me. My request is not high. Every 10 years, you have to sacrifice 100 million creatures for me. As long as you meet my requirements, I can be merciful and lend you the power of the evil ghost devil wheel. Zhuowen silently looked at the complacent evil ghost devil wheel, and the corner of his mouth revealed a cold smile. This evil ghost demonic wheel was really insatiable. It had no self-awareness at all. After betraying his master in front of Zhuowen, he still dared to ask him to worship him and sacrifice 100 million living beings every 10 years. Did he really think that he, Zhuowen, was a fool? Are you very strong? Do I need to borrow your power? Zhuowen sneered. What do you mean? Demon Wheel's voice suddenly became gloomy. He stared coldly at Zhuowen, his eyes bursting with killing intent. What I mean is, you're too weak. You're not even worthy of my attention. After Zhuowen finished speaking, his eyes became extremely sharp, and then his figure moved, and he suddenly rushed towards the evil ghost demonic wheel. The moment Zhuowen charged over, his aura also rose inch by inch, suddenly becoming extremely terrifying and powerful. You bastard! Don't think that you're so great just because you defeated Psycho Hongfei. If you didn't rely on that strange disaster, you really wouldn't be a match for Psycho Hongfei. Now that you've lost the support of the disaster, do you think you're a match for me? The evil ghost demonic wheel screamed, and his voice was full of exasperation. The rolling black fog suddenly exploded, and there was a tendency for swords to be drawn. Boom! The evil ghost demonic wheel was furious, and he attacked Zhuowen with all his strength. The corner of Zhuowen's mouth was full of a cold smile. He flipped his right hand and took out the Tai Emperor's seal. Although the Tai Emperor's seal absorbed divine power at an exaggerated rate, he was now at the middle stage of the ancient star transformation stage, and he could barely withstand a few attacks from the Tai Emperor's seal. When the evil ghost demonic wheel saw the Tai Emperor's seal, he screamed shrilly, and his charging momentum stopped in an incredible way. Then he suddenly fled in the opposite direction. When he fought against Psycho Hongfei, the evil ghost demonic wheel suffered greatly from the Tai Emperor's seal, and he was almost crippled. He knew very well how terrifying the Tai Emperor's seal was, so when Zhuowen took out the Tai Emperor's seal again, he didn't even care about his reputation and fled in a panic. You want to escape? You think it's that easy? Zhuowen sneered. He already knew that the evil ghost demonic wheel would try to escape. Therefore, he waved his sleeve and activated the temporary teleportation array that he had set up in the surroundings. White light flashed, and Zhuowen appeared in front of the evil ghost demonic wheel as if he had teleported. The Tai Emperor's seal in his hand violently slammed into the evil ghost demonic wheel. The Tai Emperor's seal, which was 10 feet long, slammed into the evil ghost demonic wheel, and dazzling sparks flew everywhere. The aftershock of the collision spread out, and the surrounding space was greatly distorted and collapsed. It was a horrifying scene. Among the deafening collision, there was also a blood-curdling scream that sounded like the cries of ghosts and howls of wolves. The evil ghost demonic wheel was hit by the Thai Emperor's seal again, and the artifact spirit cried out in pain. The luster on its surface was also much dimmer. The moment the evil ghost demonic wheel was hit until it was dizzy, Juon moved all 10 of his fingers and set up a powerful trapping array, completely trapping the evil ghost demonic wheel inside. Then, Juon grinned and took out the Thai Emperor's seal and slammed it into the evil ghost demonic wheel without hesitation. Blood-curdling screams were heard continuously. The evil ghost demonic wheel was so badly hit by the Thai Emperor's seal that cracks started to appear on its surface. Juon naturally noticed this, and he became more and more curious about the origin of the Thai Emperor's seal. Where did this seal come from? Even a rank 7 astral weapon fragment was so weak in front of it. Kid stuff. I'll give you Psycho Hongfei's spiritual soul and Qiankuan world. Let me go. The evil ghost demonic wheel let out a weak cry for mercy. It really couldn't take it anymore. The power of the Thai Emperor's seal was too terrifying. If it still didn't surrender, it would really end up in a situation where its spiritual soul would be destroyed. Juon smiled indifferently and said, "Hand over Psycho Hongfei's spiritual soul and Qiankuan world first." "Let me go first," the evil ghost demonic wheel said cautiously. Juon didn't say anything else. With a flip of his right hand, the Thai Emperor's seal hit the evil ghost demonic wheel again. "Do you think you still have a choice now?" Juon sneered. "Don't, I'll hand it over right now." The evil ghost demonic wheel was shocked and hurriedly threw the ball of light in the black handprint to Juon. Juon caught the ball of light in his hand and found that inside the ball of light, the little person who looked like Psycho Hongfei was curled up in a broken world. In the ruined Qiankuan world, Psycho Hongfei naturally felt Juon's aura. He trembled and didn't even dare to raise his head to look at Juon. "Now, can you let me go?" the evil ghost demonic wheel asked carefully. "Surrender to me, and I can give you a chance to live," Juon said indifferently. The evil ghost demonic wheel was furious and said, You didn't keep your word. Did I promise you just now that I'll let you go if you give me Psycho Hongfei's spiritual soul?" Juon asked mockingly. The evil ghost demonic wheel was speechless. Juon indeed didn't make a promise to him. "You make the choice. Submit or die," Juon said murderously. Chapter 4099. Juon opened his palm and grabbed the evil ghost demonic wheel that was kneeling in front of him. But the moment his palm touched the evil ghost demonic wheel, a strange black gas suddenly exploded, turning into a ferocious face that rushed toward Juon. The evil ghost demonic wheel took advantage of this gap and fled into the distance like an arrow released from a bow. Juon sneered. He was already prepared. With a press of his right hand, the Grand Imperial Seal suddenly fell. The ferocious faces formed by the black gas were all destroyed. At this moment, the evil ghost demonic wheel had already escaped to the edge of the trap array that Juon had set up and was trying its best to break the array. In order to break the array, the evil ghost demonic wheel's weapon spirit even burned its spirit body to obtain more power. Finally, before Juon could catch up, it forcefully broke the trap array that Juon had set up. With a roar, it fled into the distance. The moment the evil ghost demonic wheel escaped, an earth-shattering purple-gold sword light cut through the void and quickly slashed towards it. The evil ghost demonic wheel did not expect it at all. Caught off guard, it was hit by the sword light. With a muffled groan, it was forced back. And he also finally saw clearly that the one who had slashed out this purple-gold sword beam was actually the rank 6 astral weapon fragment, the purple-gold divine sword that Juon had been using all along. To the evil ghost demonic wheel, it did not care about the purple-gold divine sword, but at this moment, it was gnashing its teeth in hatred. It was this crucial sword strike of the purple-gold divine sword that finally gave it the best opportunity to escape. And Juon had already wrapped the Grand Imperial Seal, rolling over and smashing it fiercely at the evil ghost demonic wheel. Then, the evil ghost demonic wheel let out a shrill scream. It was once again heavily injured by the Grand Imperial Seal, and the cracks on its surface became more and more obvious. Master, I am willing to submit to you. I was wrong, please let me go this time. The evil ghost demonic wheel was extremely embarrassed. It knelt on the ground and begged Zhuowen for mercy. Zhuowen sneered. He reached out his right hand and grabbed the evil ghost demonic wheel. Master, you, the evil spirit demonic wheel looked at Zhuowen in confusion. He didn't know what Zhuowen wanted to do. Zhuowen did not say a word. He took out two mysterious stones from his great world. They were the Great Word Stone and the Great Word Stone. The two stones emitted a mysterious purple light that shone faintly, as if they contained some kind of extraordinary energy. Rank 7 Astral Weapon Shard. I think it will allow my purple gold divine sword to successfully advance to rank 7. Zhuowen's eyes shone with undisguised greed. The evil spirit devil will trembled. Zhuowen's eyes were too terrifying. It was the eyes of a predator. In particular, the two glowing purple stones made him even more fearful. He could clearly feel an extremely strong sense of threat from them. Through the Supreme Word Stone and Hong Word Stone, Zhuowen's soul rushed into the evil ghost devil wheel. This was a boundless black sea, and in the middle of the black sea was a huge black cage. Zhuowen stood in front of the black cage and looked straight at the creature in the cage. The creature imprisoned in the cage was tens of thousands of feet tall. Strangely, it only had a huge, strange head, but no body. This head was covered with extremely hard green scales, and there were 8 huge bloody mouths on the head. Oh, is this your true face? Zhuowen looked at the strange creature in front of him and said expressionlessly. In the cage, the evil emperor looked at Zhuowen in horror and said in a low voice, Master, the evil emperor knows that he was wrong. Please let me live. In the future, the evil emperor will serve Master well and will not dare to neglect him. That's what you said just now, but you betrayed me in the blink of an eye. Can I still believe your words? Zhuowen said slowly. The evil emperor's eyes darted around, and he suddenly broke out of the cage. His huge bloody mouth bit down on Zhuowen. This is the space inside the evil ghost devil wheel, and I am the weapon spirit of the evil ghost devil wheel. In my space, do you think you are a match for me? Watch me eat you. The evil emperor suddenly revealed a sinister expression as he let out a deranged and wanton laugh. Zhuowen sneered and waved his right hand. The Supreme Word Stone and Hong Word Stone flew through the air and blocked the evil emperor. At the same time, the purple light emitted by the Supreme Word Stone and Hong Word Stone began to look down on the evil emperor's body, causing his body to be destroyed. What the hell is this? My body. The evil emperor's pupils shrank. He was finally afraid and began to retreat. Unfortunately, it was useless. Under the power of the Great Word Stone and the Hong Word Stone, his power was too insignificant. Evil Emperor, you are right. The power of the Stage 7 astral weapon fragment is very tempting, but you, the weapon spirit, are a ticking time bomb. So, I don't need you. I only need the evil ghost devil wheel. Zhuowen's faint voice sounded. The evil emperor stared at the tiny human below and let out a roar of disbelief. Then, his huge body completely disappeared. After getting rid of the evil emperor, Zhuowen began to use the characteristics of the primordial stone to merge it with the purple gold divine sword. Why can't I merge them? When Zhuowen tried to merge the purple gold divine sword and the evil ghost devil wheel, he realized that the two astral weapon fragments were repelling each other and could not merge at all. Logically speaking, after the weapon spirit was killed, the two astral weapon fragments should be able to merge easily under the power of the primordial stone, but this method had failed. This is the lack of a weapon spirit. The Stage 7 astral weapon fragment is much stronger than the Stage 6 astral weapon fragment, and its level is also much higher. If there is no weapon spirit, it is impossible to adjust and balance the powerful energy in the Stage 7 astral weapon fragment. Suddenly, Xiaohei's voice sounded in Zhuowen's mind. Xiaohei, how did you know? Also, when I merged the astral weapon fragments, I could still merge them after erasing the weapon spirit. Why can't it work this time? Zhuowen asked in confusion. This Dragon Lord is a weapon cultivator after all. In this line of weapons, who else can compare to this Dragon Lord? Xiaohei was quite proud and continued, As for the problem you mentioned, it is because the primordial stone is too powerful. It can adjust the balance of the astral weapon. In the past, when the astral weapon was not strong, the primordial stone could still control it. Now, the astral weapon has become stronger. It is not so easy to control it. This is also the reason why it is difficult to merge the two astral weapons. Hearing this, Zhuowen frowned slightly. If what Xiaohei said was true, then his purple gold divine sword could no longer be improved by merging other astral weapon fragments. However, I have an idea that might work. Xiaohei suddenly said. Chapter 4100. Device Spirit? Where can I find a device spirit? Zhuowen said with a wry smile. Am I not a device spirit? Besides, I have two device spirits, the Blood Immortal Sword and the Death Sacrifice Sword. It will be a piece of cake for me to help you fuse the two astral weapons. Xiaohei suddenly said proudly. Zhuowen was stunned for a moment. Then, he became overjoyed and said, Xiaohei, are you sure you can do it? It's worth a try. Recently, I have reached a bottleneck in my cultivation. The materials you gave me can no longer satisfy my cultivation. Maybe the astral weapon fragments will be the direction of my cultivation in the future. This attempt is also to verify my thoughts during this period. It's just an idea. Xiaohei said calmly. Zhuowen nodded. Xiaohei was a device cultivator and relied heavily on ores and materials. Although Zhuowen often gave the ores and materials he collected to Xiaohei, they were not particularly precious or rare. Therefore, Xiaohei's cultivation had been stagnant for a while, and he had been hovering around the God realm. However, if Xiaohei could successfully refine the two astral weapons and become the device spirit, his cultivation would soar in a short time and he would not be weaker than him. With Zhuowen's permission, Xiaohei took the Blood Immortal Sword and the Death Sacrifice Sword and entered the space of the evil ghost demonic wheel. Boy, we may need some time to refine the two astral weapons. You can leave first. Xiaohei said to Zhuowen and began to concentrate on refining the evil ghost demonic wheel and the purple gold divine sword. Zhuowen shrugged. He knew as well that he couldn't interfere in this situation, so he tactfully retreated. I wonder how Master and the others are doing now? After leaving the space of the evil ghost demonic wheel, Zhuowen put the two astral weapon fragments into the macro world and took out the teleportation formation disc. A beam of white light enveloped Zhuowen, and he disappeared from this place. The third shortcut to the Hushu domain was an extremely remote ancient forest. In this ancient forest, ancient trees towered into the sky. It was verdant and lush. In the depths of the forest, huge flocks of birds would occasionally be startled. It was an extremely spectacular sight. At this moment, in the sky above the dense ancient forest, a stream of light quickly flew past. This stream of light was a divine ship. On the deck of the divine ship stood a group of people. However, these people looked dispirited, and the atmosphere on the deck was very heavy. Senior Marshal Brother Zhuo decided to stay behind and face Saika Hongfei alone so that we could escape. Patriarch, we can't let down Senior Brother Zhuo's good intentions. Sammy was the first to break the silence. She spoke to the little lowly who was surrounded by the crowd and immersed in sorrow. Yes, Patriarch, don't be too sad. Junior Brother Zhuo, he would never do anything he wasn't confident in. The reason why he dared to stay behind must be because he has a trump card that can save his life. Tuo Sheng also advised. Ever since Shan Lingyun had been sent to the third divine ship, she had not said a word. She had only silently cried and kept muttering Zhuowen's name. The Hushu tribesmen also learned about Zhuowen's heroic deeds from Sammy and the others. At this moment, Zhuowen's position in their hearts had reached an unprecedented height. He was not a member of the Huxley tribesmen, but he was willing to fight against a strong enemy for them. They were filled with respect and admiration for Zhuo. Just as everyone was immersed in sorrow, a blazing white light suddenly lit up on the deck. Then, a young man slowly walked out from the white light. When everyone saw the young man's face, they all fell silent. The surroundings were completely silent. Shan Lingyun, whose face was originally covered in tears, trembled violently the moment she saw this figure. Then, she suddenly dashed forward and threw herself into the embrace of this figure. Disciple, am I still your master? Why didn't you discuss with me before making a decision? I thought I'd never see you again. Shan Lingyun's small fists continuously hammered Zhuowen's chest. Her voice was filled with resentment and joy at seeing him again. Sammy, Tuo Sheng, and the rest of the Huxley tribesmen also came to their senses and revealed joyful smiles. This was because this figure was none other than Zhuon. He's really something. I knew it. What kind of person was junior brother Zhuo? It was impossible for him to meet with misfortune so easily. Not even Psycho Hongfei. Tuo Sheng revealed a simple and honest smile. Sammy glanced at Tuo Sheng, then walked forward and gave Zhuon a big hug. After a while, Shan Lingyun finally calmed down. She looked at Zhuon with her big eyes and asked, Disciple, how did you escape from Psycho Hongfei's hands? Sammy, Tuo Sheng, and the rest also looked at Zhuon curiously. Psycho Hongfei was the guardian of the Goldwater realm, a genuine expert of the Great Carefree realm. Even if he was seriously injured in the battle with Lu Yuanba, it would be a piece of cake for him to kill any ancient star transformations expert. However, not only did Zhuon return, but he also looked unscathed. Everyone was very curious. Zhuon put Shan Lingyun down, then scratched his head and said, That? I didn't escape from Psycho Hongfei's hands. Senior Zhuo, what do you mean? Sammy asked doubtfully. Everyone was also a little confused. If he didn't escape from Psycho Hongfei's hands, could it be that he let him go on his own accord? Basically, no one thought that Zhuon could defeat Psycho Hongfei. After all, this was simply impossible. After all, the gap between the ancient star transformations and the Great Carefree realm was too big. It could be described as the difference between heaven and earth. I accidentally killed Psycho Hongfei. Zhuon laughed dryly. Silence. The surroundings fell into a strange silence. Everyone stared at Zhuon. Disciple, this joke isn't funny. Shan Lingyun said speechlessly. Zhuon smiled bitterly. He knew that no matter how he explained, it was unlikely that they would believe him. Therefore, he opened his right hand, and a ball of light appeared in his palm. Within the ball of light was the ruins of a dilapidated Qian Kuan world. In the ruins, a weak godly spirit was curled up and shivering. This is Psycho Hongfei. Everyone looked at the ball of light, and someone immediately recognized the owner of the godly spirit. After all, the appearance of a godly spirit was exactly the same as a real person. Everyone present had seen Psycho Hongfei before. Naturally, it was impossible for them not to recognize him. Everyone's gaze fell on Zhuon again, and they couldn't help but gasp. Now, Zhuon had even taken out Psycho Hongfei's godly spirit and Qian Kuan world. They knew that Zhuon wasn't bragging. It was the truth. However, this truth was too absurd. Chapter 4101. After a long period of silence, the crowd finally confirmed that the ball of light in Zhuowen's hand was indeed Psycho Hongfei. Everyone looked at Zhuon with respect and admiration. To be able to defeat a great carefree realm cultivator with ancient star transformation realm cultivation, this was probably a rarity in the entire 100 Outer Realms. However, all such monstrous geniuses were basically the most outstanding geniuses of extremely powerful domains. They might be able to do it, but most people simply could not. Yet, Zhuon had done it. This meant that Zhuowen's talent and strength were in no way inferior to the true geniuses of the Outer 100 domains. Disciple, with your strength, I'm afraid you can be ranked in the top 20 of the heavenly list. Shan Lingyun blinked her eyes and clicked her tongue. Outer Realm heavenly ranking? What kind of ranking is that? Zhuon asked curiously. It seems like you don't know anything about the Outer Realm heavenly ranking. Shan Lingyun had an expression as if she'd known this would happen, and then she continued. The so-called Outer World Heavenly Rankings is a ranking that lists the heaven-shattering realm experts with extremely formidable combat strength in the 100 Outer Worlds. Moreover, there are only 108 places on the Outer Realm Heavenly list. Most of the cultivators who can enter this list are masters at the peak of the Ancient Star Realm. Many of them have already touched the threshold of the Great Carefree Realm. They are all extraordinary. Zhuon was startled. This was the first time he had heard of this so-called heavenly ranking. Then what is Patriarch Lu's ranking on the Beyond Realm heavenly ranking? Zhuan looked at Shan Lingyun and asked. Lu Renjue was an expert at the pinnacle of the ancient star transformation realm. In the Heshu domain, other than the protector of the Heshu domain, Lu Yuanba, he could be considered the strongest expert in the entire domain. He was curious as to what ranking Lu Renren would obtain on the Outer Realm heavenly ranking. Shan Lingyun shook her head and said sadly, although Father is powerful, he is still a distance away from the real experts on the Outer Realm list. Hence, he is not on the list. What? Patriarch Lu is not qualified to enter the Outer Realm heavenly ranking? Zhuan was really shocked. The Outer Realm's heavenly ranking is the most authoritative ranking in the Outer Realm's 100 territories. Among countless living beings, those who are able to enter the heavenly shattering realm are all peerless geniuses that are 1 in 10,000. Senior Brother Zhua, you're thinking of this ranking too simply. Senior, Zhua, Zhuowen's name of the ancient heavenly ranking, Lu said, heavenly ranking of the Outer Realm heavenly list. Heaven-shattering heavenly tribulation. Of the heavenly tribulation of the heavenly tribulation of the heavenly Tao of the heavens. Zhuan was also stunned. It seemed that the Outer Realm heavenly ranking really couldn't be underestimated. The reason why he was able to defeat Saikou Hongfei was because he had the advantage of time, place, and people. Moreover, Saikou Hongfei was heavily injured, which was why he was able to defeat him in the end. If Saikou Hongfei was still at his peak, he might not be a match for him. The top 10 of the Outer Realm heavenly ranking had actually killed a cultivator who had gone through the Great Tribulation of Universe. This was really shocking. It seemed that the 100 Outer Realms was vast beyond his expectations. There were still many people who were stronger than him. Zhuan also noticed that when the Outer Realm heavenly ranking was mentioned, the people of the Hushu tribe all revealed looks of reverence and yearning. The Outer Realm heavenly ranking was too valuable. At the same time, it was also the ranking with the most intense competition. After all, in the 100 Outer Realms, there were the most heaven-shattering realm cultivators. Among the many heaven-shattering realm cultivators, there would always be a super genius who would stand out and enter the Outer Realm heavenly ranking. Master, who created this ranking? Do you have a detailed list of names? Zhuowen suddenly asked. Shan Lingyun shook her head and said, I don't have a list of names on the Outer Realm heavenly ranking. Normally, the stone tablets of the Outer Realm heavenly ranking are built in the realms where the geniuses who have entered the Outer Realm heavenly ranking were born. Our Hushu realm is too weak and has never had such geniuses. Therefore, we don't have the qualifications to build a stone tablet of the Outer Realm heavenly ranking. Also, this Outer Realm heavenly ranking was created by the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy. Zhuowen's pupils constricted. He had inadvertently seen the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy in the many books in the scripture pavilion of Hongwu Shengzhen. It was said that a very long time ago, the 100 Outer Realms didn't have the concept of realms. It was still in a chaotic era where there were endless disputes and raging wars. In that era, the 100 Outer Realms was a wasteland. There were no rules and no order. There was only killing and the law of the jungle. Later on, a stream of light fell from the immemorial star system that hung high in the sky and landed in the 100 Outer Realms. From then on, a mysterious cultivator appeared in the 100 Outer Realms. With his own strength, he calmed all the disputes in the 100 Outer Realms and established supreme authority with mountains of corpses and seas of blood. He was worshipped by all living beings. He straightened out the moral code, calmed the people's hearts, established laws, and enforced rules. From then on, the development of the 100 Outer Realms was on the right track. They were divided into realms. Each realm had its own protector, and various large clans were born. With the continuous development of these clans and the help of the primordial stone, they developed many lower realms. It could be said that the source of all of this came from that mysterious cultivator. After the mysterious cultivator had completely unified the 100 Outer Realms, he took in 5 disciples and gave a part of his orthodoxy to the 5 of them. After that, he left mysteriously. Those 5 disciples founded the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy. It could be said that the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy was the symbol of that mysterious cultivator. From then on, there was no more news of that mysterious cultivator in the 100 Outer Realms. However, legends about him circulated in the 100 Outer Realms for a long time. It was because of this relationship that the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy had an extremely special status in the 100 Outer Realms. It was revered and worshipped by all living beings. Of course, the reason why the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy stood tall was not only because of the mysterious cultivator, but also because it was extremely powerful. In the various realms, countless young geniuses were proud to enter the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy. Moreover, any genius who could cultivate in the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy would basically become an expert of the great carefree realm in the future. With such a high status, the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy established the Outer Realms Heavenly Tao ranking naturally had great authority. Disciple, with your current strength, as long as you can challenge a genius on the Outer Realms Heavenly Tao ranking and defeat them to enter the Outer Realms Heavenly Tao Academy, the people from the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy will immediately contact you and recruit you into the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy. Yun Yun said excitedly. The surrounding Hushu clan members were also extremely excited. That was the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy, the holy land that they dreamed of. They also thought that with Zhuan's talent and strength, it would not be difficult for him to join the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy. Zhuan shook his head. The immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy's origin was too great. It was said that its founder came from the immemorial star system. If Zhuan joined such a holy land of inheritance, he would definitely benefit greatly. Chapter 4102. My dear disciple, this is a good opportunity. Are you going to give up just like that? Shan Lingyun saw Zhuan shaking his head and felt that it was unbelievable. Master, you know what my priority is right now, right? Zhuan suddenly said. Shan Lingyun was stunned and then hesitated. My dear disciple, are you going to look for that lady called Moyan Wushang? Shan Lingyun naturally understood that Zhuan had looked for her mainly to use her soul speech technique to calculate Moyan Wushang's exact location. If Shan Lingyun had not been suddenly captured by Huxley, Zhuan might have been on the way to the Nuwa realm instead of following them to face Huxley's extermination. Zhuan's eyes carried a trace of reminiscence as he nodded gently. My dear disciple, let me go to the Nuwa realm with you. After all, my soul speech technique is much more advanced than yours. I can definitely help a lot. Shan Lingyun said proudly. Zhuan was simply too outstanding. However, Dan Lingyun still felt a sense of pride that she was able to frustrate Zhuo Wen in the aspect of the spirit language technique. Zhuan was stunned and then shook his head. Master, if we are not going the same way, there is no need for you to follow me. Moreover, you are now the new leader of Huxley. The burden is heavy. Shan Lingyun sighed rather dispiritedly when she heard this. She really did not want to accept the position of the leader. However, due to the circumstances, she was the only suitable candidate. All right, the leader left me a letter. He told us to open the letter after we leave. If we can't leave, we have to destroy it. Zhuan suddenly thought of something. He flipped his right palm and a beautifully bound letter appeared in his palm. Let's open it and take a look. Shan Lingyun took the letter and glanced at Zhuan. Seeing the latter nod his head, she opened the letter. The surface of the letter was obviously sealed by some kind of power. Shan Lingyun did not open it at first. This is a blood seal. Only the blood essence of Huxley's people can open it. Sa Mei reminded her. Shan Lingyun blushed. She had been in Huxley for too short a time, so she did not recognize this blood seal. Thus, under everyone's gaze, Shan Lingyun bit her finger and squeezed out a drop of blood essence and dripped it on the letter. A ray of golden light appeared on the surface of the letter, and then the seal on the surface gradually dissipated. Shan Lingyun hurriedly opened the envelope. There was a piece of golden paper inside, and the words on it were emitting a faint glow. The general content of the letter was that Zhuo Wen and Shan Lingyun were to lead the rest of their people to the sorcerer realm after the Hushu divine city was finally breached. The witch god world was located in the south of the 100 domains. Although it was also a low-level world, Its foundation was much stronger than the Huxley world. There was no other reason. The Magus God realm had 2 experts at the universe tribulation realm. Ordinary low-level realms really did not dare to provoke such a tough opponent. Lu Renjua asked his people to go to the witch god world because his sister, Lu Yingying, was the cultivation partner of the witch god clan's leader. Lu Yingying was also a member of Huxley. She was also Shan Lingyun's aunt. Thus, it was the best choice for the Huxley world to go to the witch god clan. Shan Lingyun did not hide the contents of the letter from everyone. She made it public. Everyone was relieved when they found out that they were going to the witch god clan where Lu Yingying was from. Although Lu Yingying was married, she was a native of the Huxley world. Thus, she would definitely take them in and help them revive Huxley in the future. My disciple, you will pass by the witch god world on your way to the Nuwa world. Why don't you follow us to the witch god world? After we settle down, I will go with you to find your little lover. Shan Lingyun said with a smile. Yuan rolled his eyes at Shan Lingyun. After thinking for a while, he nodded. Shan Lingyun was right. The witch god world was on the way to the Nuwa world. They were all in the south of the 100 domains. Thus, he did not need to part ways with the Huxley world so early. All right, I will go with you to the witch god world. Zhuowen said with a nod. The distance between the witch god world and the Huxley world is more than 10 domains. If we use the ancient teleportation formation, we will have to transfer at least 10 times. The cost is very expensive. Moreover, there are so many of us. The teleportation formation will not be very effective. That's a good choice. Sa Mei suddenly said. Zhuowen shrugged and gave everyone a helpless expression. He was the one who knew the least about the 100 outer territories among this group of people, so he naturally couldn't think of any good ideas. The only way is to ride the space-time beast to the witch god world. This is the most practical and convenient way. Shan Lingyun suddenly said. The space-time beast can only be tamed in mid-level domains and above. If we want to ride the space-time beast, we must go to mid-level domains and above, Tuo Xing said in a low voice. I have calculated that the closest mid-level domain to us should be the light domain. At our current speed, we will only need 2 months to reach the light domain. Shan Lingyun said. Everyone nodded and agreed with Shan Lingyun's suggestion. They planned to go to the light domain first. After the itinerary was arranged, everyone dispersed and returned to their rooms to cultivate. Some of them gathered in groups of 3 to 5 to chat. Zhuan said goodbye to Shan Lingyun, Sa Mei, and Tuo Xing and returned to his cabin. After setting up the seal, Yuan entered the parallel world. In the parallel world, the scenery was beautiful and lush. In many areas, there were already living creatures such as birds and beasts. The only imperfection was that his parallel world had yet to give birth to intelligent creatures such as humans. However, Zhuan knew that when his strength continued to increase, his parallel world would become stronger and more advanced. By then, he might be able to give birth to intelligent creatures such as humans. By then, these native humans would worship him as a god and develop their own civilization and system. At this moment, Zhuowen had the illusion that he was the supreme creator of the universe. Zhuowen shook his head and laughed at himself. He felt that he was indulging in fantasy. Although his big world was indeed very strange, it was only a primary world. Unless he could create a universe, perhaps only then could he really be considered a creator of the universe. After Zhuowen shook off the strange thoughts in his mind, he landed on the island in the middle of the parallel world. Chapter 4103. Zhuowen, what do you want to do? Inside the trapping array, 2 beautiful women were bound and unable to move. However, the moment the 2 women saw Zhuowen, they revealed a look of fear. These 2 were naturally Leng Feifei and Jian Wuqing, who had been captured alive by Zhuowen in the Ghost King Ridge. Originally, Zhuowen had captured the 2 of them alive only to use them as hostages so that the patriarchs of the 3 great clans would hesitate to attack. Unfortunately, the 3 great clans had taken action before he left the Ghost King Ridge and completely shed all pretense of cordiality. What happened next was naturally without suspense. After Zhuowen had successfully broken through the ancient star transformation, he had cleanly destroyed all the elite experts of the 3 great clans, including the patriarchs of the 3 great clans. Don't act recklessly. My master is the patriarch of God's Eye, Leng Yenyu. If he finds out that you dared to imprison us, you'll be finished. If you still want to live, you'd better let us go. Leng Feifei shouted. Jian Wuqing's eyes were cold. Although she did not speak, a trace of fearless arrogance flashed in her eyes. Obviously, her thoughts were similar to Leng Feifei's. Haha, are you so fearless because of your masters, Leng Yenyu and Xiao Zihui? Zhuan mocked. What do you mean? I admit that you are indeed strong, but your cultivation has only broken through the ancient star transformation not long ago. However, the gap between you and our masters is still too big. You are no match for them. Let us go and we can let bygones be bygones and let you leave alive. Leave this place alive, Jian Wuqing said calmly. Ridiculous, you probably don't know yet. Yuri, Leng Yenyu and Xiao Zihui have already been defeated by me. Don't you think it's ridiculous for you to threaten me with them? Zhuowen said indifferently. Impossible. You must be lying. Leng Feifei shook her head and sneered. Zhuowen did not continue to argue with Leng Feifei. Instead, he waved his sleeve and 3 figures landed at his feet in a sorry state. Leng Feifei and Jian Wuqing turned towards the source of the voice, and their faces stiffened. This was because these 3 sorry figures were none other than the patriarchs of the 3 great clans, as well as their masters. Yuri, Xiao Zihui, and Leng Yenyu were covered in dust. All of their cultivation had been sealed in their bodies by Zhun. At this moment, they were like ordinary people, unable to use any strength. The 3 of them naturally saw Leng Feifei and Jian Wuqing looking at them in disbelief. They could not help but lower their heads as shame flashed in their eyes. Now, do you still think I'm lying? Zhuowen asked indifferently. Leng Feifei and Jian Wuqing fell silent. Their eyes were still filled with shock and disbelief. This Zhuowen actually defeated the patriarchs of the 3 great clans. How did he do it? Zhuowen, you're too presumptuous. Aren't you afraid that our realm guardian will take revenge? Huxley has been completely defeated. This is the trend. You're not even a member of the Hushu clan, so why do you have to protect Huxley? Yuri said with a sense of superiority in his eyes. This was because he still had a final trump card, which was the realm guardian. As long as their realm guardian was still around, no matter how strong Zhuowen was, he would not be able to do anything to their realm guardian. This was also the advantage they had in negotiating with Zhun. Patriarch Yu is right. Zhun, as long as you let us go and apologize, we won't pursue any responsibility against you. Leng Yenyu echoed. Leng Feifei and Jian Wuqing, who had originally fallen silent, had their eyes lit up again. That's right, they still have the domain protector. That's what they really rely on. Bang. Suddenly, Yuri groaned and fell to the ground. Leng Feifei and the others realized that Poen had unknowingly raised his foot and ruthlessly stepped on Yuri's head. The unlucky Yuri's face came into extremely intimate contact with the ground. His entire face was about to plunge into the ground. Zhunyu. Yuri was furious and struggled with all his might. Unfortunately, his cultivation had been sealed, so struggling was futile. Realm Guardian? I'm sorry, but your Jinshui clan's Realm Guardian, Saiku Hongfei, has already been defeated by me. Zhuowen said indifferently. Yuri was taken aback for a moment before bursting into laughter. You really dare to say that? Lord Saiku is an expert of the Great Qian Kuan Tribulation. Who do you think you are? You even said that you defeated him. I think you saw him from afar and immediately ran away in panic. Because you ran away like a stray dog. Zhuowen sneered. With a flip of his right hand, he took out a ball of light. His right hand reached into the ball of light and suddenly squeezed. A shrill scream rang out from the ball of light. Saiku Hongfei's spirit, who had been trembling in the ruins of the great Qian Kuan world, was pulled out. Saiku Hongfei, your descendants said that I would immediately run away like a stray dog when I saw you. I wonder if you agree with this view or not? Zhuowen asked indifferently. Saiku Hongfei's spirit trembled. He looked at Zhuowen with fear and hatred, but did not dare to meet Zhuowen's eyes. The young man in front of him was simply too terrifying. Moreover, his spirit was now in the hands of this boy. If the latter wanted to destroy him, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. How could that be? Lord Zhuo, you are a true genius. Even I have to take a detour when I see you. How could I let you run away? Psycho Hongfei's face was pale. He revealed a fawning smile and said softly. At the same time, the moment Psycho Hongfei's spirit was forcibly pulled out by Zhuan, Yuri and the others involuntarily looked at the spirit. Then, their gazes instantly froze. Immediately after, they sucked in a deep breath of cold air. Old ancestor? Yuri's face was full of disbelief. He trembled as he called out tentatively. Senior Saiku? Xiao Zihue, Leng Yanyu and the others were also dumbfounded. They even rubbed their eyes, suspecting that there was something wrong with their eyes. But when they realized that what they saw was not an illusion, they only felt a sense of suffocation engulf their bodies. An expert like Psycho Hongfei could actually smile like a weakling, and this smile was directed at Zhuan, whom they did not care much about. They finally discovered that Psycho Hongfei's physical body no longer existed. What appeared before them was a dim and lightless spirit. They were not fools. They immediately realized that Psycho Hongfei had indeed been defeated by Zhuowen, and his spirit had not been able to escape and had been captured by Zhuan. Chapter 4104. After a round of scolding, Psycho Hongfei finally put on a fawning smile and said to Zhuan, Lord Zhuan, ignorance is blameless. You don't have to be so calculative with him. Yuri's face alternated between green and white, and he fell completely silent. At this moment, his heart was filled with despair, and he was so scared that he could barely stand. What kind of monster was this Zhuan? Even the guardian of the Goldwater realm had been defeated by him, and his life was in danger at any moment. Zhuan coldly glanced at Psycho Hongfei. He knew very well what the latter was planning. Now, do you still think I'm talking big? Zhuowen's gaze fell on Yuri, and he grinned. Seeing the smile on Zhuowen's face, Yuri felt a chill in his heart. He didn't dare to meet Zhuowen's gaze, and he didn't say a word. Zhuowen's smile became even colder. He grabbed Yuri's head and lifted him up. What are you doing? Yuri's expression changed drastically, and he struggled to speak. Zhuowen's expression was cold, and he didn't answer Yuri's question. A powerful divine power poured out of his palm and poured into Yuri's head. Splat. Yuri's face twitched, and he struggled with all his might like a living fish on a dry riverbed. But all of this was useless. Before long, Yuri was bleeding from all of his orifices, and his divine soul had been completely annihilated by Zhuowen's power. Bang! Zhuan casually tossed Yuri's corpse to the side. Xiao Zihue, Leng Yanyu, and the others felt a chill run down their spines, and involuntarily knelt in front of Zhuan. Lord Zhuo, I beg you to let us live. We had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai just now. Please be magnanimous and forgive us this time. At this moment, Xiao Zihue, Leng Yanyu, and the others had already abandoned their dignity. They had cultivated for countless years to achieve what they had today. They did not want to die like this, so they simply knelt down and begged Zhuowen for mercy. But they were met with a long silence. Zhuowen looked down at Xiao Zihue and the others. The reason why he killed Yuri was to make an example of him. What he did was obviously very effective. Xiao Zihue, Leng Yanyu, and the others who were originally unconvinced finally felt fear. And when a person was afraid, it was also when they were most vulnerable. If you want to live, then hand over your spiritual imprints. If you don't, I don't mind letting you meet Yuri in the underworld. Zhuowen said calmly. Xiao Zihue, Leng Yanyu, and the others hesitated for a moment, then decisively handed over their spiritual imprints. When Zhuowen's gaze fell on Psycho Hongfei, who was in his spiritual imprint state, the latter only felt his scalp go numb. He sighed in his heart and also handed over his spiritual imprint. He knew very well that if he dared to be stubborn with Zhuowen's means just now, he would kill him. After putting away Psycho Hongfei and the others' spiritual imprints, Zhuowen nodded with satisfaction and said with a faint smile, "You are very sensible. As a reward, I plan to let you go." What? Psycho Hongfei, Xiao Zihue, and the others were stunned. They suspected that there was something wrong with their ears. Zhuan actually let them go after taking away their spiritual imprints. What did this mean? Master Zhua, you're not joking with us, are you? Leng Yanyu asked doubtfully. Do I look like I'm joking? Zhuan said coldly. Leng Yanyu quickly shut up and did not dare to say anything more. Don't worry, I'm not joking. I, Zhuan, always do what I say. However, after I let you go, I have a request. Zhuan said calmly. Saico Hongfei and the others looked at each other. They did not have the slightest joy of being released. Instead, they were filled with uneasiness. After you go back, you are not allowed to reveal anything about me. You must first swear to the heavenly Tao. Zhuan said seriously. Although Saico Hongfei did not know what Zhuan's purpose was, he knew that he could only do as he said. After they swore to the heavenly Tao, he waved his right hand and brought the 5 of them out of the macro world and onto the deck of the divine ship. At this moment, the deck of the divine ship was basically empty except for the people who were steering it. Most of the people had entered their cabins to cultivate in seclusion. Zhuan took out 4 array discs and handed them to Xiao Zihui, Leng Yanyu, Leng Feifei, and Jian Wuqing. These are the teleportation array discs. After you activate them, these array discs will transport you to the Hushu realm. You can go now. Zhuan said expressionlessly. Xiao Zihui and the others were completely dumbfounded. They really did not understand what Zhuan was planning. Although they were confused, since Yun had let them go, they naturally would not miss this opportunity. After thanking Zhuan, the 4 of them activated the array discs and turned into 4 streaks of light, disappearing from the deck. After the 4 of them left, Zhuan's gaze fell on the uneasy Saico Hongfei. Saico Hongfei, take these 4 divine soul marks. With a wave of his sleeve, Zhuan took out the divine soul marks of Xiao Zihui and the others and handed them to Saico Hongfei. Master, what are you? Saico Hongfei looked at the 4 divine soul marks in his hand, his expression full of doubt and uneasiness. Saico Hongfei, a wise man submits to circumstances. I leave the life and death of Xiao Zihui and the others to you. However, I have an important task for you. If you can complete this task, I will set you free. Zhuan said with a faint smile. Are you serious? Saico Hongfei asked hurriedly, his body trembling with excitement. Of course. Saico Hongfei calmed down, looked at Zhuan and asked, Master, what do you want me to do? After you return to the Goldwater realm, help me monitor the Divine Eye realm and the Purple Illusion realm. You have to report any situation to me. When your injuries are completely healed, I need your strength to help me destroy Zhu Yangqi, Ling Xinghai, and the Ghost King. Zhuan said. Saico Hongfei's pupils shrank. He did not expect Zhuan to be so ambitious. He actually wanted to destroy Zhu Yangqi and Ling Xinghai. Whether it was Zhu Yangqi or Ling Xinghai, their cultivations were not weaker than his. Although Zhuan had defeated him before, that was when he was extremely weak, and he had coincidentally encountered Zhuan's terrifying tribulation. In the end, he was defeated by Zhuan. The Ghost King's true strength was definitely not weaker than Lu Yuanba's. In fact, he was even stronger. It was extremely difficult to destroy such an expert. What? You're not willing? Zhuan glanced at the hesitant Saico Hongfei and said coldly. Saico Hongfei sighed softly in his heart. He knew that he had no choice but to stand on Zhuan's side. I'll leave Xiao Zihui and the others to you. After I return to the Hushu realm, the 4 of them must cooperate with us. No matter what method you use, you must make them betray their clans. If you can't do this well, wait for me to return. When I return, your head will fall to the ground. Zhuan's eyes burst with cold killing intent as he looked coldly at Saico Hongfei. Chapter 4105. Recover your cultivation as soon as you return. If you can't help me after I return to the Hushu realm, I think you know better than me what will happen to you. Zhuan took out a formation disc and tossed it to Saico Hongfei before he spoke with a cold expression. Saico Hongfei put away the formation disc. His heart trembled and he nodded and bowed. Go! Yun waved his hand. After receiving Zhuan's order, Saico Hongfei carefully took out the teleportation formation disc, turned into a white light, and disappeared from the deck. Zhuan came to the edge of the deck and looked in the direction of the Hushu realm. In Huxley, the patriarchs fought to the death like moths to a flame. He also saw the expressions of the 3 great protectors and the 9 kings, who gave up their lives for the Hushu divine city. He also saw Lu Renjue's words before he died. At this moment, they appeared in his mind, vivid in his mind. He wasn't a member of Huxley's clan, and he didn't even have much of a relationship with Huxley. But when he thought of these tragic scenes in his mind, he was deeply moved. These people who were willing to give up for their clansmen and beliefs were worthy of his respect. When his cultivation reached the level where he could truly kill a Tribulation of Universe expert, he would return to the Hushu realm and help Huxley rebuild their home. When that time came, he would go to the Pangu realm and seek justice for the countless members of the Pangu clan. Although he had no obligation to do so, he was willing to do what he could for these honorable people. In the following period of time, Zhuan focused on cultivating in his cabin, consolidating his newly advanced ancient star transformation realm cultivation. A month later, Zhuan abruptly opened his eyes, and his gaze was filled with joy. With a thought, he turned into a stream of light and entered the great world. In the sky above the island at the center of the great world, the fusion of the violet gold divine sword and the demon will had finally entered the final stage. At this moment, both the violet gold divine sword and the demon will had melted into liquid. The violet gold divine sword had turned into a purple gold liquid, while the demon will had turned into a pitch black liquid. The 2 liquids floated in the air, mixing and merging with each other. At this moment, Xiao He, the blood immortal sword, and the sacrificial death sword's weapon spirits were looking at the 2 liquids with serious expressions. Xiao He and the other 2 were constantly performing extremely complicated hand seals. One after another, runes that Zhuan could not understand surged out from their hand seals and landed on the surface of the 2 liquids. As these strange runes landed on the liquid, the fusion speed of the 2 liquids that were originally fusing immediately sped up. Time slowly passed. Approximately 2 hours later, under the support of these strange symbols, the purple gold liquid and the black-colored liquid finally completely merged together. In mid-air, the fused liquid was a strange mixture of purple, black, and gold that constantly alternated with each other. Xiao He, who had a grave expression on her face, finally relaxed a little. Naturally, he also noticed Zhuan, who was observing them from a short distance away. Xiao He chuckled and said, "Boy, fortunately, I did not disappoint you. The 2 types of astral weapons have finally completely merged together. Now, this is the original liquid of the astral weapon. In a few days, I will be able to forge this new astral weapon fragment." Speaking of which, what kind of weapon do you plan to forge this new astral weapon into? Is it still a divine sword? The corners of Zhuowen's mouth revealed a hint of a smile, and he nodded and said, "It's still in the style of a divine sword. Also, Xiao He, are you sure you want to become the weapon spirit of this astral weapon?" Zhuowen's expression suddenly became serious. He knew too little about the astral weapon fragment. Even the raw materials used to forge this astral weapon were extremely mysterious. He could not recognize them at all. He thought that Xiao He's sudden decision to become the weapon spirit of the astral weapon fragment was filled with too many unknowns. Xiao He grinned and said, "Don't worry. Have you forgotten that when you obtained the first astral weapon fragment, I had already started to study this thing? Although the material of the astral weapon fragment is extremely mysterious and even I can't understand it, after such a long time of research, it's not like I didn't gain anything at all. In addition, your primordial stone can suppress the power of the astral weapon. The astral weapon will merge into one. It can be said that no matter how low the level of the astral weapon in your hands is, its potential is endless. And as a weapon cultivator, this endless possibility is the most suitable material for me." Although Zhuowen was still a little worried, what Xiao He said was indeed the truth. As a weapon cultivator, Xiao He's talent was actually not that great, and he did not have Zhuowen's luck. If there were no accidents, Xiao He's highest achievement would only be the heaven-breaking realm. If he wanted to continue to break through and enter the great carefree realm, it would probably be very difficult. But the astral weapon had opened another door for him, And this door was endless potential. If Xiao He could succeed, then his achievements would be very astonishing. Xiao He, be careful. I'll be here to guard you. If there's an accident, I'll take action immediately, Zhuowen said with a solemn expression. Xiao He nodded, and there was gentleness in the depths of his eyes. Let's not talk for now. This Dragon Lord is going to refine this astral weapon first. Before I enter, I must forge the divine sword. As Xiao He spoke, he swept back to the ball of liquid and began to refine the astral weapon. That ball of liquid was rebellious, and it emitted extremely terrifying power ripples that spread in all directions. Fortunately, Yun had given Xiao He the Great Word Stone and Great Word Stone to protect Xiao He and the others. Therefore, they were not too affected by this powerful energy ripple. As time passed, the astral weapon source liquid gradually took shape under the efforts of Xiao He and the others, and it began to take the shape of a sword embryo. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, after another month, the sword embryo was finally refined into an incomparably sharp divine sword. The divine sword was pitch black, and on the pitch black sword body, there was a purple gold light that wandered back and forth on the surface of the divine sword like water ripples. It looked full of mystery and noble elegance. What surprised Zhuowen even more was that the pressure emitted by this sword was extremely powerful. He could clearly feel that the moment this sword was forged, the whole world seemed to shake, and then countless creatures knelt on the ground one after another, crying in fear and grief. Sure enough, after fusing with the evil ghost devil wheel, the divine sword really reached the level of a 7th-rank astral weapon, Zhuowen said to himself in surprise. Roar! Chapter 4106. Xiao He, he's planning to take over the sword. Zhuowen looked at Xiao He, who had revealed his true form, and his gaze suddenly became much more serious. Now was the most critical moment. If Xiao He could successfully take over and become the sword spirit of the sword, then the power of the sword would increase. In that case, the sword's power would rise to a whole new level, and it would also become more spiritual. It would no longer be like before, where it was like an inanimate object. The black dragon roared and fell from the sky, completely entering the black sword. Then, Zhuowen saw that the surface of the black sword, which had been motionless before, suddenly surged with intense purple, black, and gold light. The intense light seemed to be able to pierce through the entire sky. The entire macro world was enveloped by the 3-colored light, and it was everywhere. At the same time, the black divine sword began to go berserk, erupting with extremely terrifying energy and rampaging in the macro world. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. Fortunately, he was already prepared. He took out several array discs. Instantly, the area within a radius of tens of thousands of miles was enveloped by powerful array patterns, forming a terrifying cage. The black sword was extremely terrifying. It swept to the edge of the array and suddenly slashed out. Terrifying sword light swept out like a tsunami, instantly crushing many array patterns. Zhuowen's gaze was serious, but he did not panic. Instead, he moved all 10 of his fingers and began to set up new array patterns to strengthen the defensive power of the array. Wherever the black sword destroyed, Zhuowen quickly repaired it. He was barely able to trap the black sword, preventing it from rushing out and destroying the rest of the macro world. At the same time, waves of dragon roars came from the black sword. Obviously, it would not be easy for Xiao He to take over the black sword completely. Little blood, little still. Quickly come and help me. Not long after, Xiao He's anxious voice came from the black sword. Then, the weapon spirits of the blood fairy sword and the sacrificial death sword, who were watching the battle, rushed into the array without hesitation and entered the black sword. Boom! Boom! Black sword struggled even more intensely, but Zhuowen could feel that black sword's aura was gradually weakening. As time passed, black sword struggles became much weaker, like a sickly and withered seedling. Clang! Not long after, the black sword's aura became faintly discernible, and it fell to the ground with a crisp sound. Zhuowen silently looked at black sword, but he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He knew that Xiao He and the others had succeeded. Sure enough, not long after, the originally weak black sword's aura suddenly changed, rising steadily. An intense dragon roar continuously resounded from the black sword, piercing through the clouds. At the same time, on the surface of the black sword that was as smooth as a mirror, the pattern of a black dragon slowly appeared. It looked very lifelike. The black sword soared into the sky and floated in front of Jun. Its aura was no longer overbearing, but rather much more intimate. Kid, what do you think? I was right, wasn't I? I can become the weapon spirit of this astral weapon. Xiao He flew out of black sword, sat on the sword hilt, and looked at Zhuowen proudly. The weapon spirits of the blood fairy sword and the sacrificial death sword were like standard underlings, standing on both sides of Xiao He, without blinking. Jun gave Xiao He a thumbs up. This time, Xiao He had indeed contributed the most to the successful fusion of the two astral weapons. It seems that after becoming the weapon spirit of this astral weapon, you will gain a lot of benefits. Jun sized up Xiao He. He keenly noticed that Xiao He's aura had become stronger than before, and he was probably not far from a breakthrough. The benefits of an astral weapon are indeed great. I just took control of it, and its surging energy rushed into my body. I'm afraid that I will soon break through the demonic transformation. Xiao He was very happy. Zhuowen nodded. With the help of the astral weapon, Zhuowen believed that Xiao He would break through again in a short period of time, reaching the ancient star transformation, and even reaching the threshold of the great calamity of heaven and earth. After all, the weapon that Xiao He took control of was a rank 7 astral weapon, and its power was extraordinary. Oh right, because Little Blood Fairy and Little G refined this sword with me, they seem to have become part of the weapon spirit of this sword. Xiao He suddenly said, looking a little embarrassed. Zhuowen looked at the blood immortal sword and the sacrifice of death sword, who were standing respectfully behind Blackie. Sensing Zhuowen's gaze, the two weapon spirits smiled embarrassedly and hurriedly nodded and bowed. It's good to have their help. You can quickly master this sword. Zhuowen nodded and did not say anything. The weapon spirits of the blood fairy sword and the death sacrifice sword let out a sigh of relief. Xiao He nodded and continued, "Oh right, boy. The power of this sword should be above the evil ghost demonic wheel. Why don't you give it a name? After all, this will be your exclusive astral weapon in the future." Zhuowen was stunned. Speaking of which, ever since he'd obtained the astral weapon and discovered the fusion function of the astral weapon from the primordial stone, even though he'd fused it several times, he seemed to have never given the astral weapon a name. Zhuowen thought for a while and said with a smile, "Then let's call it the Taiyu Sacred Sword." Hearing this, Xiao He could not help but be a little stunned. Then he laughed and said, "That's a good name. The Taiyu Sacred Sword suits my name very well. I'll go first. You two slowly familiarize yourselves with this sword. When you have completely mastered it, let me know," Zhuowen said with a smile. "Got it," Xiao He said casually. Looking at Zhuowen's back, a trace of gentleness and gratitude flashed in his eyes. This boy really came up with this name. "Boss, you are the Taiyu Sacred Dragon, and this sword is called the Taiyu Sacred Sword. It suits you so well." "Yes. This sword was specially made for you, boss. In the future, you will be the leader of the weapon cultivators. As your followers, we feel very proud." The weapon spirits of the blood fairy sword and the death sacrifice sword gathered in front of Xiao He and kept flattering him. "Go, go, go. Now that the two of you are part of the Taiyu Sacred Sword's weapon spirits, follow me in the future and you will naturally live a good life. As long as I have meat to eat, I will definitely give you soup." Xiao He smiled proudly and re-entered the Taiyu Sacred Sword, surrounded by the two weapon spirits. After all, this sword was a fragment of a level 7 astral weapon, and its power could not be underestimated. If they wanted to master this sword, they had to cultivate and become stronger as soon as possible. Otherwise, when the time came, they, as weapon spirits, could not control this sword. Wouldn't they become decorations? After Zhuowen left the great world, there was a knock on the cabin door. When he opened the door, he found Sa Mei standing outside. "Senior Zhua, we are almost at the Radiant Realm. The Patriarch asked me to call you up," Sa Mei said. Chapter 4107. On the deck of the ship, Huxley's people had already gathered together. In front of this group of people, Shan Lingyun's petite figure formed a strong contrast. Although Shan Lingyun was a little girl, she had a strong aura. As she stood there, Huxley's people stood respectfully and did not dare to say a word. When Juan came to the deck, he saw this strange scene. The moment the little girl saw Juan, all the restraint on her face disappeared. She revealed an extremely bright smile. Immediately after, Juan helplessly realized that Shan Lingyun was walking over quickly. She jumped up and rode on Juan's shoulder. "Disciple, you are really too much. In this 1 month, you have been in seclusion. I went to look for you a few times, but you did not respond. Are you that busy?" Shan Lingyun's cheeks were puffed up. She seemed to be angry. Juan scratched his head and could only explain casually. Only then did this little girl calm down. On the other hand, the Huxley's people were not surprised by this scene. They all cupped their hands and bowed to Juan. Juan nodded slightly. He carried Shan Lingyun and came to the bow of the ship. "Junior Jua, the border of the light boundary is right in front. After all, the light boundary is a middle-level boundary. It is not like a low-level boundary. Its security is much tighter. At the border, there are powerful cultivator armies stationed there." Tuo Xing came to Zhuowen's side and pointed to the front as he said in a low voice. Zhuowen looked in the direction that Tuo Xing was pointing at. There, he saw an extremely vast territory. Moreover, there was not a single place in this territory that was dark. Almost every place was filled with intense light. The light boundary is inhabited by the light tribe. They are born with the ability to dispel darkness. Moreover, the light boundary is rich in fluorite. Therefore, almost all the buildings in the light boundary are built with fluorite. Tuo Xing looked at Zhuowen with a look of surprise. He quickly explained with a surprised look on his face. "All the buildings are built with fluorite. How rich!" Zhuowen clicked his tongue in wonder. He had been in the 100 outer domains for so long, so he naturally knew how expensive fluorite was. In many low-level places, an entire tribe's method of dispelling the darkness was always to use a stone statue made of fluorite. Moreover, these stone statues were usually passed down from generation to generation and were regarded as the treasures of the clan. Even some of the major forces were not so extravagant that almost every building was built with fluorite. However, the light domain was excessively extravagant. All the buildings in the entire domain were made of fluorite. This was indeed a little extravagant. Of course, this was also because the radiant domain had a huge fluorite vein. "We're here." As Tuo Xing spoke, the divine ship slowly descended. What appeared in front of them was a huge city wall that was emitting light. At this moment, the cultivator army within the city walls also discovered Zhuowen's group of uninvited guests. Someone immediately led a group of cultivators to stop in front of the divine ship. "Who are you?" The leader of the cultivator army was a middle-aged man. His body was sturdy, and his aura was full. There were fiend god shadows surging around him. He was an expert in the fiend god transformation realm. Zhuowen was shocked because an expert in the fiend god transformation realm was only the leader of a small team. If this were the Hushu domain, such an expert would have already taken up an important position in the core region of the Hushu domain. There was no way he would just be a small team leader at the border. It seems that a mid-level domain's foundation is much deeper than a low-level domain's. Zhuowen sighed inwardly, then led the group down the divine ship. The middle-aged man stared intently at Zhuowen. He discovered that the latter's aura was extremely vigorous, far stronger than his own. He knew that the youth in front of him was definitely an ancient star transformation realm expert. Therefore, his expression became rather serious, and he was no longer as casual as before. Zhuowen cupped his hands at the middle-aged man and said with a smile, "Brother, we are from the Hushu domain and have specially come to the light domain to seek refuge. I hope that you can make an exception for us." As he spoke, Yuan took out a heaven-breaking level 7 divine medicine and secretly handed it to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's brows twitched slightly, and he kept the divine medicine without a trace. There was a trace of a smile on his face. "So you're here to seek refuge?" I've heard that the Hushu domain is not very peaceful, but if you want to enter the light domain, you have to pay a border crossing fee, and it's calculated by the number of people. The middle-aged man's tone was gentle. Zhuan looked at Tuo Sheng beside him. Seeing the latter nod, he knew that the middle-aged man was not trying to extort him. How many crystals? Zhuan asked. 3 million crystals per person. The middle-aged man said indifferently. What? I remember that the border crossing fee to the light domain is only 1 million crystals. Why is it 3 million crystals now? Tuo Sheng frowned slightly. The middle-aged man was obviously very displeased with Tuo Sheng's tone. He snorted coldly and said, "That was the price in the past. Recently, the Light Clan has issued a new decree, which clearly states that the border crossing fee has been raised to 3 million crystals. After all, there are many refugees from the Hushu domain, and it's not a big deal for you. If you think it's too expensive, please leave," the middle-aged man said impatiently. Zhuan frowned slightly. It seemed that the light domain was taking the opportunity to earn money from the refugees of the Hushu domain. This temporary increase in the border crossing fee was obviously targeted at the cultivators who had fled from the Hushu domain. Okay, we'll calculate according to this price. Zhuan waved his sleeve, took out a large pile of chaos crystals, and handed them to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man checked and found that there was no mistake. He put away the crystals and said indifferently, "You can go in." Zhuan nodded and led everyone back to the divine ship, while the middle-aged man opened the restriction at the border. The divine ship turned into a stream of light and rushed into the light domain. In the light domain, only the most prosperous city, the light divine city, has the existence of the space-time beast. We need to go to the light domain, Tuo Sheng suggested in a low voice. Hearing this, everyone nodded in agreement. Among them, only Tuo Sheng had been to the light domain before. Therefore, Tuo Sheng was the most familiar with the light domain among them. Under Tuo Sheng's lead, the divine ship docked at the nearest city. Then, through the teleportation formation in the city, they were directly transmitted to the light divine city. Chapter 4108. This is the outer city of the Light Divine City. It is specially built for the living beings and practitioners of the Light region to do business and live here. Tuo Sheng explained to Zhuan. Through Tuo Sheng's introduction, Zhuan knew that the main part of the Light Divine City was the inner city. The inner city was much bigger than the outer city. It was also very mysterious and was hidden in a secret space. Other than the Light region, no one else knew where the inner city of the Light Divine City was. Both sides of the streets were filled with shops and stalls. There were all kinds of items on display, such as divine weapons, divine medicine, divine elixirs, and all kinds of good materials. Shan Lingyun, on the other hand, was very interested. She looked around and her big watery eyes were full of twinkling stars. Soon she realized that she had lost her composure. She curled her lips and became serious again. She said to Tusheng, "Tusheng, bring us to the place where the space-time beast is kept." Tuo Sheng nodded and led the group through a few streets. Their group attracted a lot of attention as they walked on the street. Many people turned to look at them. Tuo Sheng stopped in front of a huge temple in the west of the city and said in a deep voice, "This is the space-time temple. It's where the space-time beasts are kept. Many people ride the space-time beasts from here." After some negotiation, the person in charge of the space-time temple came out and welcomed Zhuan and the group in. "Esteemed guests, may I know which domain you plan to visit this time?" The person in charge was a beautiful woman with a hot body. She was wearing a thin, tight cheongsam that showed off her figure. There was a hint of charm on her pretty face as she sat on the wooden chair and looked at Zhuan charmingly. Shan Lingyun curled her lips and scolded her in her heart. She said, "We are going to the magical region. What is the price?" The beautiful woman looked at the petite Shan Lingyun in astonishment. She didn't expect this little girl to speak first. Did that mean that this little lowly was the leader of this group of people? The beautiful woman quickly regained her composure. She smiled tenderly and said, "Recently, it's the peak season for space-time beast rides. The price is twice as high as usual. It's about 200,000 spar per person. I see that there are more than 300 of you here. I can give you a discount. Even if there are 300 of you, it will be 60 million crystal stones in total. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This beautiful woman was really asking for an exorbitant price. They knew from Tuo Sheng that the normal price of a space-time beast was only 100,000 crystal stones. Now, she had actually doubled the price. Manager, isn't your price a bit too high? It's actually doubled. Tuo Sheng frowned. The beautiful woman spread out her hands and said helplessly, "This is the market price. If you think it's too expensive, you can look elsewhere." Zhuowen frowned. He knew from Tuo Sheng that in the light region, only the space-time temple had space-time divine beasts. If they were to search elsewhere, wouldn't they have to go to other mid-level domains to search? Then this is the price. Zhuowen said indifferently. He understood that the current situation was different from the past. The light region was taking advantage of others' weakness, and it was monopolized. They had no choice but to accept this price. The beautiful woman smiled sweetly and said, "Little brother is really a straightforward person." Next, after Zhuan paid the 60 million crystal stones, the beautiful woman informed them that the space-time divine beasts heading to the Magus God domain would set off in 3 days. She asked them to come back to the space-time temple 3 days later. Zhuowen and the others temporarily stayed in the outer city of the Light Divine City. The expenses during this period of time are a bit terrifying. Zhuowen looked at the piles of crystal stones in the outside world that were being rapidly consumed and couldn't help but reveal a wry smile. Fortunately, most of the resources in Saika Hongfei's universe world had been obtained by him, so his wealth was still relatively rich. Otherwise, he might have had to pay for the expenses in the light region. 3 days later, Zhuowen and the others arrived at the space-time temple as promised. The beautiful woman who received them was still the same as 3 days ago. She smiled and led Zhuowen and the others into the space-time temple. In the depths of the space-time temple, there was an extremely large open space. In the open space, there were many divine pillars that were so thick that it would take several people to wrap their arms around them. The surface of each divine pillar was engraved with dense and strange patterns. At the same time, the top of the divine pillar was connected to a thick divine chain. On the surface of the divine chain, there were strong bolts of lightning surging, and the aura it exuded was vast and powerful. The gazes of Zhuowen and the others couldn't help but be attracted by the divine chains that were connected to the divine pillars. At the end of the divine chains was an incomparably huge beast that was tied up. This beast was oval in shape, and its body was covered with strange scales. There were also fins on the sides of its body. What was even more strange was that when the beast's fins swayed, the surrounding space was distorted and collapsed. Time seemed to have stopped. What powerful space-time energy! Is this the space-time beast? Yun muttered softly as he looked at the beast that was tied up by the divine chains. His gaze became extremely solemn. One had to admit that the space-time beast's control of space-time energy was much stronger than that of human cultivators. It was no wonder that it could travel freely in the space-time turbulence. Manager Lin. At the front of the open space, a man in a black robe came forward and bowed respectfully to the beautiful woman. The beautiful woman nodded and introduced him to Zhuowen and the others with a smile. "Everyone, this is the beast tamer of this space-time beast. You can call him Dark." The man in the black robe looked at Zhuowen and the others indifferently. He only nodded and didn't say anything. Shan Lingyun frowned slightly. This man in the black robe was too rude. He didn't even greet them. The beautiful woman smiled and said, "Dark's character is like this. He is a man of few words and doesn't like to talk much. Don't mind him too much." As she spoke, the beautiful woman looked at the man in the black robe and said, "Dark, can the space-time beast depart?" "It can depart at any time. Let the guests follow me onto the space-time beast." Dark nodded and then said to Zhuowen and the others, "Follow me." As he spoke, Dark kicked his right foot and flew straight up. He flew along the nearest divine chain and quickly charged towards the space-time beast. Zhuowen and the others also flew out and followed closely behind. After Dark entered the divine chain, The powerful divine lightning that was released on the surface of the divine chain also disappeared. It didn't cause any harm to Zhuowen and the others. When they flew onto the space-time beast, they realized that there were many pavilions and towers on the back of the space-time beast. At a glance, it looked like a small city. Zhuowen and the others even saw that in some of the pavilions, there were many cultivators chatting and drinking merrily. There were also some who were calling their friends and some who stopped to look outside. These guests are also going to the magical realm, just like all of you, Dark said. Zhuowen and the others were enlightened. Obviously, they weren't the only group that was going to the magical realm. Chapter 4109. Disciple, why do you keep looking at that pavilion? Shan Lingyun noticed the strange expression on Zhuowen's face and could not help but ask. Zhuowen shook his head and said, I must have seen wrongly. It's fine. Shan Lingyun curled her lips and did not pursue the matter further. Everyone, the space-time divine beast is about to depart. Take your receipts and check in according to the rooms allocated on the receipts. Do not get the wrong room. Otherwise, we will not be responsible for any problems. Lady Dark said indifferently and headed straight for the space-time behemoth's head. Zhuowen and the rest were stunned. Lady Dark's attitude was too bad. She did not even lead them to their rooms. Instead, she wanted them to search for their rooms. Zhuowen took out the receipt on him. On it was written, 3rd grade room 10. The receipt was given to them by the beautiful woman after Zhuowen had paid the crystal stones. Each of them had one receipt. The rooms on the space-time behemoth were also divided into grades. They were A, B, C, and D, with A being the highest and D being the lowest. As the A rooms were too expensive and D rooms were too simple, Zhuowen bought a 3rd grade room. He was just right. Disciple, I am right next to you. Shan Lingyun came over and looked at Zhuowen's receipt. She smiled and immediately showed the receipt in her hand to Zhuowen. On the receipt in Shan Lingyun's hand, the words, 3rd grade room 9, were written. Zhuowen rubbed Shan Lingyun's head and led the rest to the 3rd grade room. As they had bought the tickets together, their rooms were basically next to each other. Zhuowen came to the door of 3rd grade room 10. He brushed the receipt on the magical array in front of the door and the door opened automatically. Not long after Zhuowen entered the room, a figure appeared outside the door. It was pacing back and forth as if it was hesitating. Who is it? Zhuowen asked loudly. I am a messenger. Can you open the door? A young female voice came from outside the door. Zhuowen's eyes flickered, but he still walked forward and opened the door. Outside the door stood a young girl in a pink dress. She was looking around timidly, seeming rather nervous. After the door opened, the girl let out a low cry and involuntarily took a few steps back. Deliver a letter? It was only then that Zhuowen noticed that the girl was holding an unopened envelope. Is your name Zhuowen? The young lady in the silk dress asked. I am Zhuowen. How do you know my room number and name? And who asked you to deliver the letter to me? Zhuowen's eyes were like torches as he coldly looked at the young girl. Zhuowen did not recognize the girl in front of him, but she actually knew his name. This caused a chill to rise in his heart. If it weren't for the fact that the young lady's aura wasn't that strong, and that she was only in the yin-yang transformation, Zhuowen would have already made his move. The girl was frightened by Zhuowen's tone. She suddenly stuttered, and a trace of mist rose in her eyes. I am just a messenger. It was the messenger who told me your room number and name. Why are you so fierce? And I don't know who the messenger is, but he is a big shot. He is a supreme expert of the great carefree realm. He is not to be trifled with. The girl seemed to have thrown caution to the wind. She curled her lips and said with some righteous indignation. Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He did not expect that the person who delivered the letter to him was at the great carefree realm. Taking the envelope, Zhuowen silently looked at the girl's back as she left. His face revealed a thoughtful expression. He opened the seal of the envelope. Suddenly, a divine thought floated out of the envelope and entered Zhuowen's mind. Come to the Agarwood Pavilion in the A-Zone. I will wait for you on the top floor of the Agarwood Pavilion. As the divine thought disappeared, the envelope in Zhuowen's hand burned by itself. What a familiar divine thought. Yun muttered to himself, but a strange light burst out from his eyes. He did not hesitate for long before leaving the room and heading to the A-Zone. The Agarwood Pavilion was extremely famous in the A-Zone. Therefore, Yun immediately found the address of the Agarwood Pavilion after asking around. "May I ask if the young master is Zhuowen?" As soon as Zhuowen arrived at the entrance of the Agarwood Pavilion, a charming and beautiful woman came out of the Agarwood Pavilion. She looked at Zhuowen softly and asked. Zhuowen did not answer the beautiful woman's question. Instead, his powerful divine thought swept into the Agarwood Pavilion like a storm. The Agarwood Pavilion was an extremely famous restaurant in the area. Not only was it famous for its wine and delicacies, but the geisha here were also multi-talented and beautiful. Generally, those who could afford to stay in the A-Zone rooms were either powerful or held high positions. Therefore, the Agarwood Pavilion was extremely popular. The moment Zhuowen's divine thought swept out, the beautiful woman who was greeting Zhuowen suddenly changed her expression. "Young master, please don't do this. Quickly withdraw your divine thought," the beautiful woman said in a panic. As soon as the beautiful woman finished speaking, waves of powerful divine thought gathered in the Agarwood Pavilion like a storm and fell on Zhuowen. Zhuowen's eyelids twitched. He found that most of the masters of the divine thought were ancient star transformation experts, and the number was quite shocking. "What an arrogant boy! How dare you use your divine thought to explore the Agarwood Pavilion? Are you courting death? Humph! Where did this country bumpkin come from? Don't you know the rules of the Agarwood Pavilion? How dare you use your divine thought so casually? Are you courting death?" Waves of unfriendly divine thought descended like a huge mountain, crushing Zhuowen's body. The beautiful woman's face turned pale with fright. She secretly thought that it was over. The VIPs of the Agarwood Pavilion were all rich and powerful. Zhuowen's unruly use of his divine thought to explore the entire Agarwood Pavilion would incur the wrath of everyone. Even she would not be able to suppress it. "Everyone, please calm down. This young master is new here and does not know the rules, so..." The beautiful woman quickly smiled apologetically and bowed to the Agarwood Pavilion. Her face was slightly pale. "Humph. Even if he is new and does not know the rules, it is the same. We must teach this newbie a lesson. Otherwise, if anyone comes here and uses their divine thought, why would we come to the Agarwood Pavilion in the future? Are you looking for trouble? Yes. The rules cannot be broken. We can't let him off the hook just because he is new." Waves of divine thought gathered, and all of them were extremely dissatisfied. Some were even gloating. The beautiful woman wiped the cold sweat on her forehead and smiled bitterly. This was really difficult. After all, it was difficult to provoke the wrath of the crowd. Chapter 41:10. Humph! Suddenly, a cold snort came from the top floor of the Agarwood Pavilion. It was like a heavenly power that shrouded the entire Agarwood Pavilion. Because of this cold snort, the divine thoughts that were originally discussing quieted down. This aura, this pressure, was simply too strong. It made them feel as if the sky was falling down. "It's the Lord on the top floor." Inside the Agarwood Pavilion, someone whispered to himself, trembling with fear. Before they entered the Agarwood Pavilion, they had been informed that the top floor of the Agarwood Pavilion had been reserved by a supreme expert of the great carefree realm. Who would dare to offend such an expert? This person is a distinguished guest that I have invited. If you are dissatisfied or unhappy, feel free to tell me. I will give you an explanation. A calm voice came slowly from the top floor of the Agarwood Pavilion. Although the voice was calm, it was like a thunderclap exploding in everyone's mind and deafening their ears. Everyone's heart trembled, and they all resentfully gave up and fell silent. The person on the top floor was a great figure of the great carefree realm. How would they have the guts to ask him for an explanation? Wasn't that courting death? So it's the Lord's friend. It's a misunderstanding. We were just joking. Don't take it to heart. Everyone makes mistakes. This young master is still a newcomer, so it's understandable that he doesn't know the rules. They all withdrew their divine thoughts and explained to the Agarwood Pavilion. They no longer dared to criticize Zhuan. The beautiful woman breathed a sigh of relief. Her beautiful eyes looked curiously at Zhuan. As the manager of the Agarwood Pavilion, she knew very well how powerful and honorable the person on the top floor was. Moreover, he was extremely domineering in dealing with people. She did not expect that in order to help Zhuan out, that person was willing to come in person. It could be seen that the young man in front of her held a high position in that person's heart. Zhuan's eyes became extremely dignified. He raised his head and silently looked at the top floor of the Agarwood Pavilion. There, by the bamboo window, there was a reflection of a deep figure. What a powerful divine sense! This person is probably even stronger than Sai Hongfei and Zhu Yangqi. Zhuan's gaze was solemn. Sai Hongfei and the other two were all in the middle stage of the Great Tribulation of Universe, and this person gave him an even stronger feeling. Wouldn't that mean that he was at least an expert in the late stage of the Great Tribulation of Universe? Thinking of this, Zhuan's heart sank. He did not know any experts with such cultivation. Zhuan still couldn't tell whether this person was friend or foe. Young master, that lord is waiting for you on the top floor. Come with me. The beautiful woman leisurely walked in front of Zhuan. Her soft and delicate hands gently held onto Zhuan's hand as she led him into the Agarwood Pavilion. Zhuan's brows furrowed slightly. He gently shook off the beautiful woman's hand and said indifferently, "I'll just follow behind you." The beautiful woman didn't feel awkward at all. She calmly led the way in front. The Agarwood Pavilion had a total of 7 floors. From the bottom to the top, the decorations were getting more and more luxurious. Without a doubt, the higher the floor of the Agarwood Pavilion, the more luxurious the decorations were. Of course, the higher the price. When they reached the top floor, the beautiful woman respectfully said outside the door, "Sir, I have invited young Master Zhuan here." Inside the room, there was no response for a long time. The beautiful woman had said it for the second time. Finally, a low and hoarse voice was heard. "I understand. You can leave." The beautiful woman nodded. She didn't dare to stay any longer. She glanced at Zhuan and hurriedly left. "Brother Zhuan, long time no see. Your cultivation progress is actually so fast. It's beyond my expectations." After the beautiful woman left, the voice in the room rang out again. However, this time, the voice was no longer hoarse and low. Instead, it was filled with a young and loud voice. Hearing this voice, Zhuan's eyes lit up. Could it be Brother Duan? Zhuan hesitated slightly and asked tentatively. Brother Zhuan, you have a good memory. You can still remember my voice. Come in." Hearty laughter came from inside the room. Then, the originally closed door was immediately opened. Through the door, it could be seen that the area of this box was very large. There were 5 rooms with gorgeous decorations. In front of the hall, a figure was standing and looking at Zhuan with a smile. It was a handsome young man. His white robe was slightly fluttering and he looked natural and unrestrained. This person was Duan Jipeng, whom Zhuan had saved outside the boundary of the starry sky. "It's really you, Brother Duan. I haven't seen you for a long time. You have already stepped into the great freedom realm." Zhuan laughed, stepped into the hall, and gave Duan Jipeng a big bear hug. Duan Jipeng generously hugged Zhuan back. The corners of his eyes were full of smiles. Meeting an old friend in a foreign land naturally added a sense of closeness. Moreover, Zhuan and Duan Jipeng had gone through life and death together. Although they didn't get along for long, their friendship was not shallow. "Take a seat." Duan Jipeng waved his sleeve and closed the door again. Then he led Zhuan to a seat. He flipped his right hand, and a white jade wine pot and 2 white jade wine cups appeared on the table. He filled the 2 white jade wine cups to the brim, and then said with a smile, "Compared to Brother Zhuan, what is this little bit of achievement of mine?" Zhuan didn't comment. He remembered that when he first met Duan Jipeng was only at the God realm. At that time, he was being chased by Venerable Hong Rui of the Nua clan. Both of them were heavily injured and almost died. At the critical moment, he schemed to let Venerable Hong Rui enter the starry sky. With the help of the Starry Skies rules, he killed the heavily injured Venerable Hong Rui and saved Duan Jipeng's life. Since Duan Jipeng was able to reach the great carefree realm from the God realm on the day they met again, he must have had a lot of opportunities. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to advance so quickly. Brother Duan, you must be joking. Speaking of which, the one who should really thank you is me. If it weren't for you, the Starry Sky would have been destroyed by the Niwa clan. Zhuan smiled. Back then, Duan Jipeng used his astral weapon, the Dark Chakra Eye, to help him conceal Venerable Hong Rui's aura. Thus, the Niwa clan's great senior couldn't find the place where Venerable Hong Rui died. This gave the Starry Sky a chance to survive. Therefore, he was sincerely grateful for what Duan Jipeng had done for him and the Starry Sky. That's what I should do. Speaking of which, Brother Zhua, with your speed of improvement, you won't need 10,000 years. I'm afraid you'll be able to reach the great carefree realm within 1,000 years. Then, you'll be more than enough to protect the Starry Sky. You might even be able to build a base in the 100 domains outside the Starry Sky. That's a big force. Chapter 4111. Brother Duan, you should have recognized me when I first entered the space-time beast, right? Zhuan said to Duan Jipeng with a smile as he toyed with the white jade cup in his hand. Earlier, when he first entered the space-time beast, he saw a familiar figure. It should be Duan Jipeng. However, Zhuan found it strange that Duan Jipeng didn't come out to meet him when he recognized him. Instead, he sent someone to secretly send him a letter to meet him at the Agarwood Pavilion. Duan Jipeng nodded and said, Brother Zhua, your divine senses are really sharp. You can actually sense my aura. At that time, I did see you, but I couldn't openly acknowledge you. At this point, Duan Jipeng's expression became very serious. Zhuan narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, Is it because of the Niwa clan? Duan Jipeng nodded and said, The Dark Chakra Eye is an extremely powerful set of complete astral weapons of the Niwa clan. Its power is much stronger than many astral weapon fragments. The Niwa clan will never give up on such an item. As a result, the Niwa clan has been hunting me down since the beginning, and they've been hunting me down. This is also why I was so cautious when I saw you. Zhuan nodded. He had heard about the enmity between Duan Jipeng and the Niwa clan from Duan Jipeng. The daughter of the Grand Master, concubine Yun, fell in love with Duan Jipeng. She wanted to recruit Duan Jipeng but rejected the marriage. The main reason was that concubine Yun had a complete astral weapon like the Dark Chakra Eye in her body. In the future, the Grand Master would completely control the Dark Chakra Eye by sacrificing it to concubine Yun. Unfortunately, in order to save Duan Jipeng, concubine Yun sacrificed herself and gave the Dark Chakra Eye to Duan Jipeng. This helped Duan Jipeng escape the pursuit of the Niwa clan. The Niwa clan would never give up on the Dark Chakra Eye. Therefore, they would continue to hunt down Duan Jipeng until they captured him. Duan Jipeng definitely wouldn't let the Niwa clan off either. He had to avenge his wife's death. Under the intense pursuit of the Niwa clan, Duan Jipeng naturally didn't dare to openly acknowledge Zhuan. Otherwise, not only would his tracks be exposed, he would even implicate Zhuan. Brother Duan, just how powerful is the Niwa clan? Can you tell me a thing or two? Zhuan's expression became rather solemn. Even with Duan Jipeng's current level of cultivation, he was still so cautious. The strength of the Niwa clan was probably beyond his expectations. Duan Jipeng was silent for a moment before he sighed and said, Brother Zhua, I'm sure you're aware of the hierarchy of the 100 outer domains. Zhuan nodded and said, I've heard that the 100 outer domains are divided into 5 levels, namely the low level, the medium level, the high level, the super level, and the invincible level. What level is the Niwa domain? The Niwa domain is a high-level domain, and the Grand Master of the Niwa clan is the guardian of the Niwa domain. His cultivation has already reached the reverse ancient starlight realm. Duan Jipeng smiled bitterly. What? Reverse ancient starlight realm? Zhuan gasped. The reverse ancient starlight realm was the 3rd level of the great carefree realm. It was far more powerful than the universal calamity realm. He had never imagined that the Grand Master of the Niwa clan would be so powerful. No wonder Duan Jipeng was still so cautious after reaching the Great Carefree Realm. Through Duan Jipeng's narration, Zhuan gradually gained a general understanding of the distribution of the 100 outer domains. The levels of a domain were divided according to the cultivation of the strongest expert in each domain. For example, there were only 5 invincible domains in the 100 outer domains. They were the most powerful domains in the 100 outer domains, and they all had the strongest experts in the all-in-one domain. It was said that the Abyss domain, which was publicly recognized as the number 1 domain, was suspected to have an expert at the peak of all-in-one domain, who was already standing at the peak of the 100 outer domains. And such an expert was said to have a slight possibility of coming into contact with the immemorial star system. The immemorial star system was high and mighty, ruling the entire vast and boundless chaotic starry sky. Many creatures, in their whole lives, were just to be able to step into the mysterious star system. Because in the immemorial star system, there was a supreme power and the secret of immortality. However, the immemorial star system was too far away for most creatures. It was an existence that they could only look at but not reach. And the strongest expert in the Abyss domain had a slight possibility of coming into contact with the immemorial star system. This was already extremely amazing. Brother Duan, what is your realm? Zhuan glanced at Duan Jipeng and asked curiously. My current cultivation is only at the peak of the universal calamity realm. I haven't even reached the cosmic Dharma idol. There is still a huge gap between me and the more powerful reverse ancient starlight. But I am confident that as long as I can successfully break through and eventually condense the cosmic Dharma idol, and then rely on the power of the star weapon Dark Chakra, I will have the power to protect myself in the face of the Nuwa clan's pursuit. At that time, I won't have to be so scared. Hiding from place to place. Duan Jipeng revealed a wry smile. Obviously, he also felt tired of these days of hiding. Zhuan nodded. Although he was not in the Great Carefree Realm, he also knew that in the Great Carefree Realm, the difficulty of cultivation was definitely much higher than in the Heaven-Breaking Realm. With Duan Jipeng's talent, if he cultivated normally, it would probably take an immeasurable amount of time to finally break through the cosmic Dharma idol. And if Duan Jipeng wanted to break through in a short time, he could only obtain a great opportunity. Brother Duan, I think you should have other things besides catching up with me. Zhuan said slowly, his deep eyes silently looking at Duan Jipeng. Duan Jipeng smiled embarrassedly and said, Brother Zhua, your observation skills are indeed very sharp. You're right, I called you here not only to catch up with you, but also to tell you something. To be more precise, I want to give you a good fortune. Creation? Zhua Wen's eyes were filled with surprise. Duan Jipeng suddenly leaned close and whispered, Brother Zhua, have you heard of the extraterritorial battlefield? Zhuan shook his head and said, This is the first time I've heard of it. What is this so-called extraterritorial battlefield? Duan Jipeng revealed an as-expected expression and said in a low voice, The extraterritorial battlefield is the battlefield opened up outside the borders of the 100 outer realms. And in this battlefield, there are numerous powerful extraterritorial creatures. Once you apply for the identity of a warrior in the extraterritorial battlefield, then you can fight with the numerous extraterritorial creatures in the extraterritorial battlefield. After Duan Jipeng's narration, Zhuan finally had a preliminary understanding of this so-called extraterritorial battlefield. Chapter 41:12. There were all kinds of creatures in the extraterritorial battlefield. There were terrifying beasts that were not human cultivators from other mysterious spaces, and even some strange races. And these extraterrestrial beings only had one purpose in coming to the extraterritorial battlefield, and that was to kill. They had to constantly kill in order to obtain sufficient contribution points. There were many uses for contribution points. It could directly increase one's cultivation level, and it could also be exchanged for many precious divine medicines and divine pills that could not be exchanged in the outside world. It could even be exchanged for powerful astral weapons. Moreover, the chaotic energy in the extraterritorial battlefield is much denser than most realms, and it contains many ownerless chaos mineral veins. As long as you're lucky enough to find a chaos mineral vein, you'll be rich. In addition to chaos mineral veins, there are many extremely rare treasures in the extraterritorial battlefield. As long as you're strong enough and cautious enough in the extraterritorial battlefield, you'll be able to rapidly increase your cultivation level in a short period of time. The reason why my cultivation level was able to increase from the God realm change to the universe tribulation stage in such a short period of time is mainly because I once roamed the extraterritorial battlefield and obtained many opportunities. That's how I was able to achieve this. Duan Jipeng's gaze became rather fervent. He couldn't help but be very excited when talking about the extraterritorial battlefield. Hearing this, Yuan couldn't help but be moved. Although he didn't have much of an understanding of the extraterritorial battlefield, for Duan Jipeng to achieve such achievements, it was obvious that the extraterritorial battlefield was indeed extraordinary. Brother Duan, as long as you apply, you'll have the qualifications to enter the extraterritorial battlefield? Yuan asked. Duan Jipeng shook his head and said, although the extraterritorial battlefield is extremely cruel, there are many opportunities. It's a treasure land. The main reason is that it's controlled by the 5 invincible realms and the archaic Heavenly Tao Academy. If you can't obtain the corresponding quota from these 6 forces, you won't be able to enter the extraterritorial battlefield at all. My luck is pretty good. Back then, I accidentally obtained a quota and entered the extraterritorial battlefield with the cultivation of the Fiend God change. Relying on the power of the Dark Chakra I went through a lot of hardships and finally achieved my current achievements. Brother Zhua, you haven't entered the extraterritorial battlefield before, but your cultivation level has increased so quickly. This shows that your talent is extremely amazing. If you're able to enter the Outer Realm battlefield to temper yourself, then your cultivation will progress even faster. Zhuan nodded and silently looked at Duan Jipeng. Since the extraterritorial battlefield required a quota to enter, Duan clearly did not have the qualifications in his current state. Brother Duan, could the good fortune you mentioned be this extraterritorial battlefield? But I don't have a place to enter. Zhuan smiled faintly. The fortune I'm talking about is the powerful succession I found in the extraterritorial battlefield. If he could enter that inheritance, he would receive a great fortune. As for your quota, I've already thought of it for you. Duan Jipeng said mysteriously. He smiled but kept her in suspense. Zhuan was startled and nodded. He did not ask about the quota. Since Duan Jipeng had helped him settle the matter of the quota, it was obvious that he was not joking. Brother Duan, since you're riding the space-time beast this time, it's obvious that you're planning to head to the magical realm. The magical realm is not very far from the Nuwa realm, so your trip. Zhuan hesitated for a moment and asked in a low voice. When the Nuwa realm was mentioned, Duan Jipeng's eyes suddenly became sharp. I've heard rumors that the tomb of an expert suspected to be a cosmic Dharma idol has appeared in the magical realm, and someone has even found a Dharma idol divine fruit there. The Dharma idol divine fruit is the best supplementary item to condense a cosmic Dharma idol. If I can get the Dharma idol divine fruit, the time it takes to condense a cosmic Dharma idol will be greatly reduced, and my strength will rise to a new level. When the Dharma idol divine fruit was mentioned, Duan Jipeng's eyes surged with passion. Obviously, he yearned for the Dharma idol divine fruit. Zhuawen secretly clicked his tongue. He didn't expect that the tomb of such an expert would appear in the Witch God realm. No wonder when he entered the space-time beast, he found that there were so many experts heading to the Witch God realm. It seemed that they were all here for the cosmic Dharma experts. They were all here for the tomb. Brother Zhua, this tomb will attract many experts of the great calamity of heaven and earth to fight for it. I've even heard that many geniuses on the Outer Realm Heavenly List are also interested and will gather in the magical realm. And the geniuses who can be on the Outer Realm Heavenly List basically have a Dharma idol token on them. They have a Dharma idol token for the extraterritorial battlefield. When we enter the tomb, if we encounter such geniuses, we can kill 1 or 2 of them and take the Dharma idol token for ourselves. Duan Jipeng smiled faintly. Zhuan smiled bitterly. He had to admit that Duan Jipeng was really straightforward. Snatching the Dharma idol token was indeed a clean and efficient way. Compared to the Dharma idol token, Yuan was more interested in the tomb. The tomb of a cosmic Dharma idol expert was definitely not ordinary. This was a great opportunity for him. Brother Duan, the news you've brought is too timely for me. I really can't thank you enough. Zhuan cupped his hands and thanked him. Duan Jipeng waved his hand and said, Brother Zhua, you're too polite. There's no need to be polite between you and me. This time, you'll enter the tomb with me. This way you'll be safer. Zhuan originally wanted to refuse, but Duan Jipeng was really too enthusiastic and insisted on going together. Zhuan had no choice but to agree. After the two talked for a while, they became much closer to each other. Seeing that it was getting late, Zhuan said goodbye and left the Agarwood Pavilion. Before leaving, many practitioners in the Agarwood Pavilion looked at Zhuan with a trace of awe and fear in their eyes. After all, the top expert of the Great Carefree Realm had personally stood up for him. Obviously, this person's background was not small. How could they dare to look down on him? Zhuan ignored these strange looks and went straight back to his room. Zhuan had also roughly told Duan Jipeng about Huxley. Duan Jipeng promised Zhuan that after entering the Sorcerer Realm, he would first follow him to the Sorcerer's sacred city where the Sorcerer clan was located. After settling down Huxley's clansmen, the two of them would go to the tomb together. Fortunately, the tomb was still in a closed state. It was said that there was still some time before it appeared, so Duan Jipeng was not in a hurry. In addition, Duan Jipeng had also said that this time, he had also gathered several experts of the great calamity of heaven and earth to enter the tomb together. This way, the chances of obtaining the divine fruit of Dharma origin would be greatly increased. In order to prepare for the upcoming battle of the tomb, Zhuan had to improve his strength as much as possible during this period of time. His cultivation had just improved not long ago, so it was obviously not possible to improve it again. Therefore, he spent the rest of the time on the art of Array Tao. Chapter 41:13. Time gradually passed. Finally, after 2 months, Zhuan, who had been in seclusion in his room to comprehend the heaven-mending catalog, slowly opened his eyes. In his eyes, there was a blazing light, as if he could see through the essence of anything. The so-called 10,000 laws of nature means that the art of array formation exists in the heart. With a thought, I can create an array. Everything is natural, everything is free. Zhuan muttered to himself, then let out a carefree laugh. Then, with a thought, he entered the macro world. He came to a place with lofty mountains and steep ridges. With a wave of his sleeve, an extremely powerful array phantom appeared in the void. The array phantom was formed by endless array patterns. It looked illusory, but the aura it exuded was extremely powerful. Zhuan clenched his right hand in the air, and the originally illusory great array suddenly turned corporeal. The aura of the array skyrocketed several times, like the might of heaven, enveloping the entire macro world. Zhuan waved his sleeve once again, and the seemingly solid great array collapsed. Countless array patterns disappeared into thin air, while a trace of a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He finally took the last half-step smoothly, and his array formation reached the first heavenly layer of the eternal grade. Array formation and alchemy Dao were both broad and profound. Above the heaven-breaching grade was the eternal grade. There were 5 heavens in the eternal grade. The first heavens was the lowest, and the 5th heavens was the highest. The power of the array that could be arranged was enough to trap an expert of the great carefree realm. Compared to array formation, my progress in alchemy Dao is a bit slow. Zhuan muttered to himself, and a bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. His array formation level had reached the first heavenly layer of the eternal grade, but his alchemy Dao level was still hovering around the 8th level of the heaven-breaching grade. Of course, this was also related to his opportunity. After all, he had obtained a powerful array formation book, the Heaven-Mending Catalog, which gave him a clear direction in array formation. Alchemy, on the other hand, was not so lucky. If he could also obtain this kind of opportunity, he believed that his achievements in alchemy would not be much weaker than his attainments in array formations. After Zhuan removed the array, Xiao Hei's divine sense suddenly rang out in his mind. Then, a terrifying sword light shot toward him from afar. The black sword light was like a bolt of black lightning. It flickered in the distance and appeared not far from Zhuan. The instant the sword appeared in front of Zhuan, an extremely loud and clear dragon roar was emitted from the sword. It whizzed out and resounded through the clouds. At the same time, Zhuan also saw the true appearance of the sword. The sword was 1.4 meters long. It was completely black and crystal clear, as if it was forged from a black crystal diamond. On the surface of the sword, there was a pitch-black dragon-shaped pattern that extended from the end of the hilt all the way to the tip of the sword. It was natural and lifelike. "Kid, you've caused such a big commotion as soon as you entered the outside world." Xiao Hei flew out of the divine sword and sat on the hilt. He crossed his legs and curled his lips. Zhuan smiled slightly and said, "I've just mastered array formations, so I'm itching to try it in the outside world. Speaking of which, Xiao Hei, are you familiar with this sword now?" Xiao Hei scratched his head and said with a smile, "I'm just getting familiar with it. Moreover, this extreme nether sacred sword is worthy of being a rank 7 astral weapon. The energy it gives me is really too pure. During this time, I've made another breakthrough and successfully advanced to the ancient star transformation." Zhuan's eyes revealed a look of surprise. It seemed that this extreme nether sacred sword had many benefits for Xiao Hei. It hadn't been long, and Xiao Hei had actually broken through a major realm. At this speed, wouldn't Xiao Hei step into the great carefree realm before him? However, the stronger Xiao Hei's strength was, the happier Zhuan was. After all, the stronger his strength, the more proficient his control of the extreme nether sacred sword would be, and the greater the help to him. A strange stone seemed to have appeared in the outside world. That stone seems to have a life of its own. Xiao Hei suddenly said, "Thuman? Strange stone, are you talking about the primordial stone?" Zhuan said rather jokingly. Xiao Hei said solemnly, "I'm serious. A stone really appeared. An extremely powerful heartbeat is even coming from inside that stone." Seeing Xiao Hei so solemn, Zhuan also put away his joking expression. He said curiously, "Bring me over to take a look." Following that, Xiao Hei brought Zhuan through the vast and boundless grasslands, mighty and magnificent mountains, and the ever-changing climate, arriving at the easternmost region of the outside world. In the east, there was a boundless sea. On the surface of the sea, there stood an irregular stone pillar. This stone pillar was derived from the depths of the sea. It was slanted on the surface of the sea, looking very strange. That strange stone is on top of that stone pillar. Xiao Hei stood on the extreme nether sacred sword, one of his little claws pointing forward. Zhuan looked in the direction Xiao Hei pointed. Indeed, he saw that on top of that stone pillar, there was an irregular stone lying quietly. This stone was about the size of an ordinary person's head. Its surface was bumpy, and there was nothing special about it. Zhuan looked at Xiao Hei doubtfully, his eyes revealing an inquiring look. "Watch carefully. The best part is yet to come." Xiao Hei's eyes were solemn. He suddenly waved his little claws, and the white clouds above the sea dispersed. A ray of golden light of the rising sun sprinkled down, enveloping the stone pillar. When Zhuan looked at the stone again, he was surprised to find that the surface of the stone was shining with a blazing golden light. The stone was also moving up and down, like a beating heart. "Let's go take a look." Zhuan's eyes narrowed. He took a step forward and landed on the stone pillar. When he walked in to take a look, he found that the surface of the stone was engraved with dense and strange characters. He had never seen these characters before. It should be a brand new language. Thump, thump. At the same time, there was a rhythmic pulse coming from this strange stone. It was as if there was a beating heart hidden in this stone. Zhuan frowned slightly. His divine sense landed on the stone. He found that his divine sense could not detect the internal structure of this stone. It was as if this was really an ordinary stone. "This is too strange." Zhuan pondered for a moment. His right hand slowly landed on the stone. Then he felt a sense of intimacy from his bloodline. This feeling was similar to when Juan held Juejun, and for the first time when he was just born. It was an innate sense of intimacy from his bloodline. Juan shook his head. There was a strange look in his eyes. Juejun, and was his son. It was normal for him to feel this way. Chapter 41:14. Crack. Countless cracks appeared on the surface of the stone. These cracks quickly spread until the entire stone broke apart. From the cracked stone, a clear and melodious cry of a baby could be heard. It's a baby? Juan was completely dumbfounded. He looked at the baby lying in the debris and was completely dumbfounded. A baby jumped out of the stone. Wasn't this too against common sense? Holy shit. What's going on? Brat, when did you not even let go of a stone? Xiao He, who was originally sitting on the sword hilt, was dumbfounded and almost fell to the ground. Blue veins appeared on Zhuowen's forehead. He suddenly sent Xiao He flying with a palm strike. This guy's mouth was too cheap. Brat, I was just joking. Don't take it to heart. Xiao He flew back. His face was full of embarrassment, but he didn't dare to speak carelessly. Juan held the baby in his arms. The baby, who was originally crying, suddenly stopped crying and even giggled. Brat, look, he's laughing. You must be his father without a doubt. Xiao He yelled. Juan was expressionless. He once again punched Xiao He. This time, Xiao He was completely obedient and didn't dare to tease Zhuowen anymore. Suddenly, the strings of strange characters on the surface of the debris on the stone pillar seemed to be alive. They actually broke away from the stone pillar, rushed into the sky, and landed on the baby's body. The originally white and flawless baby, who looked like a beautiful jade sculpture, was now covered with dense strange characters. In an instant, the baby's aura also rose rapidly. In just 10 breaths' time, the baby actually jumped from an ordinary person with no cultivation level to the virtual sky world. Moreover, the baby's cultivation level was still rising. First step in the virtual sky world, second step in the virtual sky world, 8th step in the virtual sky world, 9th step in the virtual sky world. However, after his aura reached the 9th step in the virtual sky world, although the rising of his aura slowed down, it didn't stop. His aura was still growing stronger. In the end, the baby crossed the two extremes of life and death and successfully confirmed his Tao. As soon as he was born, he inexplicably succeeded in confirming his Tao. Moreover, he's a Heaven's Mandate Lord at the second step of Tao validation. Xiao He's jaw almost dropped. He looked at the baby in Zhuowen's arms as if he was looking at a monster. This was the first time he had seen a newborn baby with a Tao-confirming cultivation base. This was too heaven-defying. Juan was completely stunned. He thought that his son was already heaven-defying enough. He was born at the peak of the true God realm and reached the void sky 8 steps at the age of 20. But compared to the baby in front of him, his son was far inferior. This should be a human born from the great world, but he's too heaven-defying. Juan looked at the giggling baby in his hand with mixed feelings. Doesn't that mean that this little baby is the first human in your great world? This was the heavens as the father and the earth as the mother, a true son of heaven and earth. I'm afraid he's going to be an amazing guy in the future. Xiao He rubbed his hands and looked at the baby in Zhuowen's hands with a kind gaze. He had been in the great world for so many years and had always been with the blood immortal sword and the sacrificial death sword. He had long been tired of it. Now, the great world had finally given birth to its first human. He would not be so bored in the future. Zhuon suddenly said, "This child's power seems to be completely different from ours. His body is extremely strong, but there's not a trace of divine power in it." Xiao He came over and looked carefully. His eyes also became serious. Bowen was right. There was no divine power in the child's body. The powerful aura was all emitted by that small body. Xiao He said seriously, "The strength of his body seems to come from these strange characters on his body." Could it be? Bowen and Xiao He raised their heads at the same time and looked at each other. They could see the shock in each other's eyes. "Boy, your great world is amazing. This newly born infant's cultivation path might be a brand new system. A cultivation system that may not exist in the 100 outer regions or even in the chaotic starry sky. It's a system that can turn the world upside down. It's a revolution of the earth. Xiao He said excitedly. Zhuowen's eyes were full of surprise. If their guess was right, then Zhuowen's great world was really amazing. It was a brand new world that did not rely on the chaotic starry sky at all. It had its own rules, laws, and energy. It also had a brand new system that was derived by itself. The baby in front of them was the ancestor of this cultivation system. He would definitely be an extraordinary person in the future. Xiao He, I'll leave this child to you. Remember to take care of him for me. If there's any problem, you must inform me immediately. Zhuowen handed the baby to Xiao He. The latter's eyes lit up and he transformed into a handsome young man in a black robe. He carefully took the baby. What embarrassed Xiao He was that the baby immediately cried and threw a tantrum as soon as he took it. Xiao He's face was covered in dirt. It took a lot of effort for him to calm the baby down. This child can't be nameless. How about I give him a name? Xiao He said excitedly. It was the first time that Zhuowen had seen Xiao He so excited. He did not refuse the latter's suggestion. In the end, after some consideration, Xiao He finally decided on the baby's name. He even handed over the blood celestial sword and the sacrificial sword's device spirit for discussion. The baby was born from the rock and was born in the light of the rising sun through the cracks in the clouds. Therefore, Xiao He named the baby Sherpatian. Although there were many mysteries surrounding Sherpatian, Yuan also knew that if he wanted to understand Sherpatian's cultivation system and the meaning of the strange characters engraved on his body, he would have to wait until Sherpatian was a little older and could speak. However, Yuan had a strong premonition that the birth of this child would have a great impact on the chaotic starry sky under the rule of the ancient star system in the future. Although he did not know how great the impact would be in the future, he was sure that it would not be a small one. Another few days passed. Zhuowen, who had been cultivating in his room, felt a violent tremor coming from his surroundings. His divine thought swept out and found that the huge space-time beast had left the space-time turbulence and appeared on a vast plain. At the end of the plain, there were mountains and rivers. Dear guests, the destination of this trip, the magical realm, is about to arrive. Dear guests, please be prepared in advance. A sweet female voice rang out from every room on the space-time beast. Chapter 41:15. Esteemed guests, we are landing at the biggest city in the Sorcerer God world, Sorcerer God City. This city is the outer city of the Sorcerer God's sacred city. It is a huge city that is specially used for foreign cultivators to trade and travel. The sweet female voice sounded again on the deck. Disciple, you are already out. No wonder you did not respond when I knocked on your door. Zhuowen turned around and saw Shan Lingyun walking over with Sa Mei and Tuo Sheng. Behind them was a group of Huxley tribesmen. Zhuowen smiled and looked at the huge city in the distance. He said, "We are almost at Sorcerer God City. Master, you should be able to contact your aunt in Sorcerer God City." Shan Lingyun walked to Zhuowen's side and looked at the city in the distance. She nodded and said, "There is a special way to contact my tribe on the letter that my father left behind. As long as we are not too far away, I will be able to use the communication method on the letter. I will be able to contact my aunt. I have not met this aunt before. I am not sure if she will still recognize me as her niece." Shan Lingyun seemed a little unhappy, and a trace of worry appeared in her eyes. Zhuowen rubbed Shan Lingyun's head and said, "Master, don't worry. Since the tribe leader has entrusted you and the rest of the tribesmen to your aunt, I am sure she will not reject you, because she is also from the Huxley tribe." Hearing this, Shan Lingyun's eyes lit up again and she nodded her head heavily. Zhuowen chatted with Shan Lingyun, Sa Mei, and the rest as they waited for the space-time beast to land. At the same time, Zhuowen noticed that there was always a gaze on the deck that was faintly discernible in his direction. He looked up and realized that the owner of the gaze was a man in a black robe. Even his face could not be seen clearly. He seemed to have noticed Zhuowen's gaze. He nodded slightly and did not greet him. Zhuowen nodded to him as well. The black-robed man was naturally Duan Jipeng. However, Duan Jipeng was currently wanted by the Niwa clan, so he wouldn't show himself in public. About 2 hours later, the space-time beast finally landed in a huge square in the Sorcerer God City. There was no doubt that the background of the space-time temple in the Radiant Domain was not weak. Therefore, when they entered the Sorcerer Domain and the Sorcerer God City, they were not stopped for questioning. Dear guests, we have arrived at the Witch God City. Please disembark in an orderly manner. We welcome you to come again in the future. As the sweet female voice sounded again, the people on the deck rushed down and left the space-time beast. After Zhuan and his group came down, they found a good inn nearby and stayed for the time being. After Shan Lingyun returned to the inn, she took out Lu Renjue's letter and began to contact her aunt. Shan Lingyun successfully got in touch with her aunt. The latter expressed that she welcomed them very much and would come to greet them in 3 days. At the same time, Yuan also found that under the prosperous surface of the Sorcerer God City, there was an undercurrent surging. He could feel that many extremely obscure auras were located in the Sorcerer God City. Brother Zhua, it seems that this tomb of a cosmic Dharma plane expert is very attractive. There are at least 2 great carefree realm experts, and there are more than 10 geniuses on the outer realm celestial list. Among them, there is an expert who is ranked in the top 20. Not long after Zhuan settled down in the inn, he received a message from Duan Jipeng. Zhuan took a deep breath. It seemed that the battle for the tomb this time would be a fierce battle. It would not be simple. 3 days later, outside the inn where Zhuan was staying, an armored cultivator army with a strong aura came. This cultivator army had been through hundreds of battles. They were murderous and their aura was much stronger than that of an ordinary cultivator army. It's the Sorcerer God army of the Sorcerer God clan. This is the most elite cultivator army of the Sorcerer God clan. They usually guard the surroundings of the Sorcerer God's sacred city. Why are they here? Look, that's Lu Yingying. She is the cultivation partner of the Sorcerer God clan leader. She has a high position and authority. Why is this lady here in the Sorcerer God City? The sudden appearance of this cultivator army naturally attracted the attention of the people around the streets of the Sorcerer God City. Everyone was discussing and whispering, especially when they saw the beautiful woman in a tight outfit in front of the cultivator army. Their eyes were filled with awe. I didn't know you were here. Please forgive me for not welcoming you. The owner of the inn scrambled out and came to Lu Yingying. He was so scared that his face was pale. He was only running a small business. He did not know what he had done wrong to provoke Lu Yingying to send the Sorcerer God army to his inn. Lu Yingying had snow-white skin, an oval face, and a pair of long and narrow phoenix eyes that were filled with unconcealable charm. If a man looked into her eyes, it would be easy for him to fall head over heels in love. At this moment, Lu Yingying's expression was indifferent as she said, 3 days ago, was there a group of people who stayed in your inn? The leader was called Shan Lingyun? The owner of the inn was shocked. He could only bite the bullet and say, there was indeed such a group of people. May I know why you are looking for them? After receiving an affirmative answer from the owner of the inn, Lu Yingying's expression eased up, and a faint smile appeared on her face. They are very important to me. Ask them to come out now. Tell them that Lu Yingying wants to see them. Lu Yingying said. The owner of the inn naturally did not dare to delay. He responded and hurriedly entered the inn. After a while, the owner of the inn led a group of people out. The leader of this group of people was a young man with a delicate and pretty face. On the young man's shoulder was a little lowly with a delicate face. Lu Yingying's long and narrow eyes casually glanced at Jun. However, her attention was on the little girl on Zhuowen's back. Her eyes revealed a trace of gentleness. Lingyun, do you still remember me? Lu Yingying smiled at Shan Lingyun. Shan Lingyun naturally saw Lu Yingying. Her big eyes looked at Lu Yingying timidly. Then, she lowered her head and thought for a while before saying, Is it Aunt Yingying? The smile on Lu Yingying's face became wider. She walked forward and took Shan Lingyun from Zhuowen's hands. Then she carried her up. Our Lingyun is so smart. She only saw Aunt a few times when she was young. After so many years, she still remembers Aunt. Lu Yingying said with a smile. Chapter 41:16. You must be the disciples of King Valurium and King Imperial Dragon, right? Are you all that's left of our people? Lu Yingying smiled warmly at Sa Mei and Tuo Sheng. Sa Mei and Tuo Sheng looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They nodded with difficulty. Jinshui Clan, God's Eye, and Purple Mirage. How dare they work together to destroy Huxley? How despicable! Lu Yingying's eyes were filled with coldness. As she spoke, Lu Yingying's gaze landed on Zhuowen. Lingyun, who is he? Lu Yingying asked curiously. To her, Zhuowen was a stranger. However, he was walking in front of Sa Mei and Tuo Sheng. Senior Lu, I am Zhuowen. I am Lingyun's disciple. Zhuowen said with a smile. So you are Lingyun's disciple? Lu Yingying nodded. She did not pay much attention to Zhuowen. Auntie, disciple is the savior of our Hushu clan. When the three big clans invaded Huxley, he single-handedly killed the three clan leaders and all their elite martial artists. He even led us to escape from Saikou Hongfei. Chased after them. In the end, he even defeated Saikou Hongfei. Shan Lingyun said with a smile. What? He had single-handedly killed the patriarchs of the three great clans and defeated Saikou Hongfei? Lu Yingying's expression finally changed. She looked at the young man in front of her carefully. The young man's aura was indeed powerful. However, he was only at the Middle Ancient Star Transformation realm. He could not even compare to the three clan leaders, let alone Saikou Hongfei. How could he have done such a thing? Lingyun, are you kidding? He really killed the three clan leaders and Saikou Hongfei? Lu Yingying asked with a frown. If you don't believe me, you can ask Sa Mei and Tuo Sheng. They saw it with their own eyes in Hushu City. Shan Lingyun said innocently. You are Zhuowen, right? Although I don't know how you did it, since you successfully brought my people out, I do have to thank you. This is a heaven-breaking level 9 godly medicine. Consider it my gift to you on behalf of Huxley. Lu Yingying arrived before Zhuowen. With a flip of her lily-white hand, an exquisite brocade box appeared in her palm, and she passed it to Zhuowen. Zhuowen was startled. He looked at the cold-faced beautiful woman in front of him and felt a little helpless. It seemed that Lu Yingying had misunderstood him. Senior Lu, there is no need for any gifts. Lingyun is my master. Master's kindness is as great as a mountain, I naturally won't save him. Zhuowen shook his head and refused Lu Yingying's gift of thanks. Lu Yingying glanced at Zhuowen in surprise, but she didn't refuse. She put away the brocade box and continued, In that case, I thank you on behalf of Huxley for your help. Although you are Lingyun's disciple, you are not Huxley's. Therefore, if I bring you into the Sorcerer God Holy City without permission, I am afraid that it will be inappropriate. Shan Lingyun, Sa Mei, and the others' expressions changed slightly. They immediately understood what Lu Yingying meant. Zhuowen looked deeply at Lu Yingying and smiled. Senior Lu, don't worry. I will not be so thick-skinned as to follow you into the Sorcerer God Holy City. However, Lingyun is my master. I hope that after they enter the Sorcerer God Holy City, they will be treated well. They will not be mistreated. If I find out that they have been mistreated in any way, I will definitely go to the Sorcerer God Holy City and ask for justice. Lu Yingying frowned. This young man's cultivation was ordinary, but his tone was not small. Don't worry. After all, I am Huxley's clansman. I will not mistreat my own people. Moreover, as the Taoist companion of the Sorcerer God Holy City's leader, I have a say in the Sorcerer God Holy City. Lu Yingying said calmly. What we said is true. Disciple really saved us. He is Huxley's benefactor. If it were not for him, we would not have survived. Shan Lingyun said anxiously. Sa Mei, Tuo Sheng, and the others also spoke up for Zhuowen. Lu Yingying smiled. Lingyun, the Sorcerer God Holy City is not the Sorcerer God Holy City. That is the Sorcerer God Holy City. It is basically impossible for non-members of the Sorcerer God Holy City to enter. I spent a lot of effort to get the Sorcerer God Holy City's leader to accept you. If there are other people now, I am afraid that the Sorcerer God Holy City's leader will not agree. Moreover, if you want to meet in the future, you can meet in the Sorcerer God Holy City. There are no restrictions. Yuan also stepped forward and rubbed Shan Lingyun's head gently. He smiled and said, Senior Lu is right. After all, this is not Huxley. When you go back, you have to listen to Senior Lu. She will definitely protect you. Shan Lingyun curled her lips, and her big watery eyes had already turned red. Her eyes were already filled with a hazy mist. My disciple, you have to wait for me. I still want to go to the New realm with you. You can't go alone. Otherwise, I will not forgive you. Shan Lingyun's eyes were red. She waved her little fist at Yuan and said fiercely, I can't go against my master's orders. I dare not go alone. Yuan said with a smile. Yuan then said goodbye to Same, Tuosheng, and the others. They then followed Lu Yingying and left the Sorcerer God Holy City. Hehe, I thought you were going to follow us to the Sorcerer God Holy City. Now, it seems like I was thinking too much. In the inn, a man in a black robe walked to Zhuowen's side. He looked at the backs of Shan Lingyun and the others and said in a low and hoarse voice, Brother Duan, it's time to do our business. How's the information gathering going? Zhuowen asked calmly. It's almost done. Just now, the little girl said that you killed Psycho Hongfei. Is that true? Duan Jipeng asked curiously. Do you think it's true or not? Zhuowen asked. Duan Jipeng shrugged and said, How would I know? After all, you are only at the middle stage of the ancient star transformation realm. It's a little exaggerated to say that you killed an elite who had undergone the great tribulation of universe. Zhuowen smiled and did not explain. He said, Let's plan for the upcoming battle in the tomb in these few days. We can only win this trip. Lu Yingying returned to the Sorcerer God Holy City. After settling Shan Lingyun and the others down, she went to the Sorcerer God Grand Hall. In the Sorcerer God Grand Hall stood a tall and sturdy figure. He was the current leader of the Sorcerer God clan, Emoliohua. Husband. Lu Yingying bowed deeply to the figure and said respectfully. Emoliohua slowly turned around. He was wearing a golden silk robe and had long dark red hair. Although he looked to be over 50 years old, he had an imposing aura. Yingying, I will only tolerate your stubbornness this time. After settling down Huxley's people, you have to watch over them at all times. They are not allowed to wander around the Sorcerer God Holy City. If I find out that Huxley's people are not allowed to go where they should go, don't blame me for being merciless. Emoliohua looked at Lu Yingying and said in a deep voice. Chapter 41:17. In the following period of time, Zhuowen basically stayed in the inn to cultivate, while Duan Jipeng was basically not in the inn. Instead, he was preparing for the Battle of the Tomb. Time gradually passed, and half a month quietly passed. Finally, on this day, Duan Jipeng knocked on Zhuowen's door. Brother Zhuo, the specific location of the tomb of the Cosmic Dharma Powerhouse has finally been found. As soon as he entered the door, Duan Jipeng excitedly said to Zhuowen without beating around the bush. Zhuowen was excited. He lowered his voice and asked, Brother Duan, where is the tomb? Duan Jipeng took out a jade slip and handed it to Zhuowen. He whispered, The specific location of the tomb is in this jade slip. I spent a lot of money to get it from a friend in the Sorcerer God City. There's no doubt about it. You got the news from the Sorcerer God City? That means... Zhuowen frowned. You guessed right. The first to know about the tomb of the Cosmic Dharma Powerhouse was the Sorcerer God clan. Originally, the Sorcerer God clan planned to monopolize the tomb of the Cosmic Dharma Powerhouse, but they didn't expect that the news of the tomb would suddenly be exposed. There are many realms around the Sorcerer God realm, and even some geniuses on the Outer Realm Heavenly list, who are also interested in this matter. That's why the Sorcerer God City is so lively. Duan Jipeng smiled faintly. Then how many people know the specific location of the tomb of the Cosmic Dharma Powerhouse? Yuan had a bad feeling. Since Duan Jipeng could get the specific location, it was obvious that other powerhouses in the Great Carefree Realm could also get it. There should be a lot. After all, I'm just a rogue cultivator. Some of the real big forces have corresponding channels to get this information. The competition this time is definitely not small. You have to be careful, Duan Jipeng said with a serious expression. In fact, he was still a little worried about Zhuan. After all, Zhuan's cultivation was a little low. This battle for the tomb was bound to have experts in the great calamity of heaven and earth. If Zhuan encountered such an opponent, he would be in danger. Zhuan smiled faintly and did not say anything. Although his cultivation was only at the middle stage of the ancient star transformation realm, his strength was definitely not weak. In addition, his array Dao had just broken through to the first firmament of the eternal grade. Ordinary universe tribulation experts might not be able to take him down. Let's go. Let's go to the tomb first, Duan Jipeng suggested. Zhuan nodded. The two of them left the inn and quickly left Sorcerer God City. According to the reliable information Duan Jipeng had obtained, the grave was located at a place called Snow Flame Valley, tens of billions of kilometers north of Sorcerer God City. The Snow Flame Valley was an extremely famous perilous place in the magical domain. It was extremely dangerous. It was said that any cultivator below the Great Carefree Realm would die without a doubt if they entered. When Zhuan and Duan Jipeng arrived at a wide open space in the outskirts of the Snow Flame Valley, they were shocked to discover that many people had already gathered there. Moreover, these people had set up their immortal mansions in the open space. It seemed that they intended to stay here. What made Zhuan's expression even more solemn was that the group of people in the open space all had extremely powerful auras. Many of them were even great Carefree Realm cultivators. Even the weakest among them was at the Ancient Star Transformation Realm. How dare a junior of the Ancient Star Transformation Realm be so presumptuous? Do you want to die? Suddenly, in the middle of the open space, an unfriendly shout attracted the attention of everyone present. Zhuan and Duan Jipeng were also attracted by the shout and couldn't help but look over there. In front of an immortal mansion in the middle of the open space, a purple-haired youth stood quietly, staring indifferently at a white-haired old man standing in the immortal mansion. The purple-haired youth was extremely beautiful. His skin was even fairer and smoother than most female cultivators. If it weren't for his prominent Adam's apple, it would be easy to mistake him for a guy dressed up as a man. Just now, the owner of the loud shout was the old man standing in the immortal mansion. At this moment, the old man stared at the purple-haired youth with an extremely unfriendly gaze. The aura on his body was like an abyss, rolling down and crushing down, causing the surrounding pressure to suddenly skyrocket. The cultivators who had gathered in the surroundings all fled far away with fear in their eyes, not daring to approach. It's the Black Bamboo Old Man. This is a big shot in the early stage of the universe Great Tribulation. I didn't expect him to come too. Old Man Black Bamboo was a rogue cultivator who did not belong to any sect. His actions were the most shameless and unreasonable. He was also a vengeful person. Even many of the realm guardians of the lower realms were not willing to become enemies with Old Man Black Bamboo. What is the background of this young man? Looking at his aura, he is only at the peak of the ancient star transformation realm. He actually dares to provoke the Black Bamboo Old Man. Isn't that courting death? Many of the people present recognized the identity of the Black Bamboo Old Man. Therefore, they looked at the purple-haired youth with some pity. Zhuan took another look at the purple-haired youth. It was not because of the youth's excessively beautiful face, but because of the youth's calm expression. This expression was as if he did not place the Black Bamboo Old Man in front of him in his eyes at all. Old Man Black Bamboo, I've said it before. I've taken a fancy to your position. It's not too late for you to scram now. Otherwise, you might not even have the chance to scram later. Just when everyone thought that the purple-haired youth would kneel down and beg for mercy from the Black Bamboo Old Man, the purple-haired youth finally spoke. However, the words that he said caused everyone to be charred on the outside and tender on the inside. Could it be that this youth has gone crazy? You're just an ancient star transformation trash. What right do you have to say such shameless words to an expert of the universe Great Tribulation? This was not only what everyone thought, but also what the Black Bamboo Old Man thought. Little bastard, you're courting death. The black bamboo old man was so angry that he trembled. He reached out his right hand into the air and then ruthlessly pressed down on Juan. Boom, boom, boom. Terrifying divine power condensed in the air and transformed into a huge illusory mountain that blasted towards the purple-haired youth. The black bamboo old man's eyes were filled with contempt. After all, he was an expert of the universe's great tribulation. It was naturally impossible for him to use his full strength against a mere peak ancient star transformation cultivator. In his opinion, a casual strike was enough to destroy the youth before him. However, the black bamboo old man did not see the mocking smile on the purple-haired youth's face. Suddenly, the purple-haired youth drew the long sword at his waist and quickly slashed out. A purple sword light shot out like a waterfall. It turned into a purple river and slammed into the illusory mountain. Then, under everyone's shocked gazes, the illusory mountain was annihilated by the purple sword light. The moment the illusory mountain was annihilated, the purple-haired youth took a step forward and shot out like lightning. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the black bamboo old man. Before anyone could react, the purple-haired youth had already brushed past the black bamboo old man clang. The purple-haired youth slowly sheathed his long sword and revealed a trace of an evil smile. Chapter 41:18. What a fast and sharp sword! Juan looked at the purple-haired youth's back and his eyes became extremely serious. At that moment, he actually couldn't see the purple-haired youth's figure clearly. He could only vaguely see a little bit of afterimage. It should be known that Juan's divine sense was much stronger than that of an ancient star transformation cultivator. Even many early-stage Qiankuan tribulation cultivators' divine senses were not necessarily as sharp as his. But he couldn't see the purple-haired youth's movements clearly. This meant that the purple-haired youth's speed was far beyond Juan's expectations. Juan looked at the purple-haired youth's long sword that was already sheathed at his waist. If he didn't sense it wrong, this long sword should be a very powerful astral weapon. There was an uproar in the open space. Everyone looked at the purple-haired youth in disbelief. A mere ancient star transformation cultivator actually cut off the arms of a Qiankuan tribulation cultivator. This was too unbelievable. Black bamboo old man's face was pale. He stared at the purple-haired youth's back and asked in a trembling voice, "You? Old man, don't think that you're invincible just because you've entered the great carefree realm. In my eyes, trash from a low-level world like you don't know the true meaning of the great carefree realm. Even if you use all your strength, I can still defeat you and even kill you." The purple-haired youth slowly turned around. The evil smile on his lips grew wider. He continued, "Right, my name is Ziyu." The moment they heard Ziyu's name, most of the cultivators in the open space exclaimed in surprise. Ziyu? Could it be Ziyu who is ranked 5th on the Outer Realm celestial list? I didn't expect that this existence would also come here to compete for the tomb of a cosmic Dharma cultivator. The tomb of a cosmic Dharma cultivator is really attractive. Even Ziyu is here. I'm afraid that many geniuses on the Outer Realm celestial list are here. Black bamboo old man trembled. He didn't expect that the person he randomly met would be ranked 5th on the Outer Realm celestial list. One had to know that the top 10 of the Outer Realm heavenly ranking had records of killing powerhouses in the universe calamity. All of them were extremely terrifying geniuses. This Ziyu was ranked 5th on the Outer Realm celestial list. Her strength was definitely above Black Bamboo Laozi's. It was not impossible for her to kill him. What made Black Bamboo even more afraid was the huge power behind Ziyu. The geniuses on the Outer Realm Heaven leaderboard were basically all nurtured by the true major forces of the Outer Realm 100 domains. Each of them had a strong background. Ziyu came from one of the super domains, the Xiling domain. The power behind it was enormous and was not something that the Black Bamboo old man could afford to offend. "Now, do you still think I'm courting death?" Ziyu said slowly. Plop. Heizhu simply knelt on the ground and constantly kowtowed to Ziyu, begging her not to pursue him. Ziyu waved her hand and said coldly, "Get up. I'm only interested in your position, I don't want to kill you. Now scram." Black Bamboo Lousy breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly scrammed. He didn't even dare to take back his immortal residence. Ziyu didn't feel any guilt at all. She openly stayed in Black Bamboo Lousy's immortal residence, leaving the surrounding people staring at each other. As expected of a genius on the Outer Realm heavenly ranking, she has such terrifying battle strength at the ancient star transformation. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Duan Jipeng stood beside Zhuowen and was full of emotion. Zhuowen also nodded in agreement. Ziyu's strength was absolutely top-notch. Even if it was Zhuowen, he might still have the strength to fight against Ziyu if he had to use all his trump cards. Otherwise, he really wouldn't be Ziyu's opponent. Is a super domain really so powerful? The juniors that they nurture are actually so terrifying. Zhuowen muttered to himself. From the discussions of the surrounding people, he also knew that Ziyu came from a super domain. If it was a lower domain like the Heshu domain or the Wuga domain, they definitely wouldn't be able to produce a monstrous genius like Ziyu. However, the Xiling domain was able to nurture one. It could be seen how powerful and terrifying a super domain was. The higher the level of a domain, the stronger its foundation and the more outstanding its people are. And the younger generation cultivated by the Invincible Domain and the archaic Heavenly Tao Academy are even more terrifying. It's just that the younger generation of the Invincible Domain and the archaic Heavenly Tao Academy are more low-key. They have never competed for the Outer Realm heavenly ranking. Therefore, there are no young cultivators from the Invincible Domain and the archaic Heavenly Tao Academy on the Outer Realm heavenly ranking. If they want to compete, the rankings on the Outer Realm heavenly ranking will probably change dramatically, Duan Jipeng said in a low voice. How awe-inspiring! You repelled an expert at the initial stage of the universe tribulation as soon as you arrived. This is really like your style. You pick the weak ones when picking bones. A slightly mocking voice sounded out from afar. Everyone looked over and saw a young man wearing a mask. He stepped through the air and slowly landed beside Ziyu's immortal mansion. Su Zhou, I didn't expect you to come too. Ziyu walked out of the immortal mansion and looked at the masked young man with fear. Su Zhou? Could it be Su Zhou, who is ranked 4th on the Outer Realm heavenly ranking? He is a genius more powerful than Ziyu. I didn't expect even him to come. This is really unexpected. When Ziyu called out the masked young man's name, there was another uproar in the open space. Su Zhou smiled gently. Aren't you going to invite me in to have a seat when you see an old friend? Ziyu narrowed her eyes and smiled. Brother Su Zhou, please follow me into the house. After Su Zhou and Ziyu entered the immortal mansion, the surrounding uproar not only didn't lessen, but became even more serious. Brother Zhou, the 2 friends I made an appointment with have arrived. Come with me to meet them. We have more people in this battle for the tomb. We can take care of each other and greatly reduce the risk. Duan Jipeng suddenly said to Zhuowen. Zhuowen thought for a moment and nodded. Thus, the 2 of them quietly left the open space. In a dense bamboo forest about 7 or 8 kilometers away from the open space, 2 figures had been waiting there for a long time. These 2 figures were a man and a woman. The man didn't look old, about 30 years old. He was dressed in a gray robe and looked very capable and energetic. The woman was exceptionally enchanting and charming. Her pair of narrow phoenix eyes were exceptionally seductive. What was even rarer was that the aura of this man and woman was extremely vast. Although it was slightly inferior to Duan Jipeng's, it wasn't too far off. They were probably late-stage experts of the Qianquan Great Tribulation. When Duan Jipeng and Zhuowen arrived at the bamboo forest, the man and woman greeted them with a smile. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.